What's going on, everyone? It's H. Potter here. We've got something amazing for you today. Betrayed and left for dead, Harry Potter vanished for 10 years and returned as the darkest wizard since Merlin. Real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join thousands of story lovers and hit that subscribe button. Alright, story time. Chapter 1, The Betrayal. The cheers echoed through Diagon Alley as Harry Potter walked among the crowd. 6 months since Voldemort's fall, and people still celebrated when they saw him. Hands reached out to touch his robes, voices called his name, and cameras flashed. Harry forced a smile but kept moving. Bit much, isn't it? Ron said beside him, clapping his shoulder. You'd think they'd have gotten over it by now. Let them have this, Hermione said from Harry's other side. Everyone needs something to celebrate. Harry nodded but said nothing. The weight of the Elder Wand in his pocket felt heavier each day. He'd meant to return it to Dumbledore's tomb weeks ago, but something always came up. Ministry ceremonies, memorial services, rebuilding efforts. And if he was honest with himself, some part of him hesitated to part with it. They turned down a side street, heading for the leaky cauldron where the real celebration waited. Harry's 25th birthday. He'd insisted on keeping it small, just friends, no officials or reporters. Potter. A voice called from behind. Harry turned to see Draco Malfoy hurrying toward them, his face serious. Ron immediately stepped forward. What do you want, Malfoy? Draco ignored him, focusing on Harry. We need to talk. Privately. Whatever you have to say to Harry, you can say to us, Hermione said firmly. Draco's eyes darted between them. Fine. I've heard rumors, Potter. The Ministry's investigating you. Something about dark magic. Harry laughed. That's ridiculous. I'm serious. My father still has contacts. They're building a case against you. Ron snorted. Right, and I'm the next Minister for Magic. Get lost, Malfoy. Harry studied Draco's face. The former Slytherin looked genuinely concerned. Why would you warn me? Because I know what a ministry witch hunt looks like, Draco said quietly. And because whatever they claim you did, I don't believe it. Before Harry could respond, a series of cracks split the air. 6 Aurors appeared, surrounding them with wands drawn. People screamed and scattered. Harry Potter, said a tall Auror Harry recognized from the department. Williamson. By order of the Ministry of Magic, you're under arrest. What? Harry reached for his wand instinctively, but Hermione grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered. It'll make things worse. On what charges? Harry demanded. The use of forbidden magic resulting in the deaths of 7 wizards and witches, Williamson stated flatly. Surrender your wand. Ron stepped forward. This is mad. Harry wouldn't. Stand aside, Weasley, another Auror warned. This doesn't concern you. Harry's mind raced. 7 deaths. He hadn't even performed any complex magic in weeks. There's been a mistake. Your wand, Potter. Now. Harry slowly reached into his robes, but instead of drawing his phoenix wand, he pulled out the Elder Wand. A collective intake of breath came from the Aurors. Is that, one whispered. The Elder Wand, Williamson confirmed. Just as reported. Reported? Harry looked between the Aurors. I was going to return it to Dumbledore's tomb. I just haven't had time. A likely story, Williamson said. Hand it over, along with your original wand. Harry hesitated. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. But with 6 wands pointed at him in a crowded street, fighting would only endanger bystanders. He surrendered both wands. Immediately, magical restraints snaked around his wrists. Harry Potter, you are hereby detained for questioning regarding the Dartmoor massacre. You will be held until your trial before the Wisengamot. The what massacre? I've never even been to Dartmoor recently. Williamson ignored him, turning to Ron and Hermione. Weasley, Granger, you'll both be called to testify. Report to the Ministry tomorrow morning. As the Aurors prepared to disapparate with him, Harry locked eyes with his friends. Ron looked stunned, his face pale. Hermione's eyes were wide with confusion and fear. And behind them, unnoticed by the others, Draco Malfoy watched with a calculating expression. I didn't do this, Harry said firmly. Whatever they're saying, it's not true. Then the streak vanished as the Aurors brought him away. The Ministry holding cell was cold and sparse. A far cry from Azkaban, but with the same Dementor-like effect on Harry's spirits. He'd been here for 3 days, questioned repeatedly about events he knew nothing about. 7 people dead in Dartmoor. A ritual site discovered with traces of Harry's magical signature. The Elder Wand used for spells that matched the magical residue at the scene. Evidence that he'd been researching dark magic for months. All lies. All impossibly detailed lies. The cell door opened, and Kingsley Shacklebolt entered. The Minister for Magic looked grave, his usually calm face lined with strain. Minister, Harry said, standing. You know I didn't do this. Kingsley sighed heavily. I wish it were that simple, Harry. It is that simple. I was with Ron and Hermione the night these murders supposedly happened. Were you with them all night? Harry hesitated. No, I went home around midnight. And the murders occurred between 1 and 3 in the morning. You live alone. No alibi. So I'm supposed to have left my flat, traveled to Dartmoor, performed some complex dark ritual, killed 7 people, and returned home without anyone noticing. You have an invisibility cloak and exceptional skills, Harry. Kingsley's voice was tired. The evidence is substantial. It's fabricated. Harry slammed his hand against the wall. Someone's framing me. The Wizengamot will determine that. Your trial is tomorrow. Harry stared at him. Tomorrow? That's not enough time to prepare a defense. Given the high-profile nature of the case and public safety concerns, it's been expedited. Kingsley wouldn't meet his eyes. I've assigned you a Ministry defender. I want Hermione. Ms. Granger is listed as a witness. She can't represent you. Harry paced the small cell. This is a setup. Can't you see that? Who found this so-called ritual site? Who reported me? An anonymous tip led Aurors to the location. Your magical signature was verified by 3 independent experts. And the Elder Wand? I was planning to return it. Yet you kept it for months, and recent spells performed with it matched those at the murder scene. Harry stopped pacing. Test my Phoenix Wand too. It will show what spells I've actually been casting. For the first time, Kingsley looked uncomfortable. Your original wand shows evidence of having been recently scrubbed of its spell history. What? That's impossible. I didn't, Harry. Kingsley cut him off. I've known you since you were 15. I want to believe you. But the evidence, it's overwhelming. Evidence can be manufactured. By whom? For what purpose? Harry ran his hands through his hair in frustration. I don't know. But there are still Death Eaters out there. People who'd love to see me ruined. Kingsley headed toward the door. Present that theory to the Wizengamot. Your friends will be questioned today. If they support your story, it will help your case. Have you spoken to them? What are they saying? The minister's pause told Harry everything. They don't believe me either, do they? Harry said quietly. I'll see you tomorrow at the trial, Harry. And with that, Kingsley left. Harry sat on the hard bench, mind racing. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to frame him. But who? And how had they duplicated his magical signature? Even Polyjuice Potion couldn't do that. More importantly, why were his friends doubting him? The courtroom was packed. Spectators filled every seat, reporters stood along the walls, and the full Waisengamot peered down from their elevated seats. Harry sat in the center chair, magical restraints binding his arms to the chairs. The evidence presented against him had been meticulous. Blood samples from the scene matching spells cast by the Elder Wand. Books on dark magic found hidden in his flat. A journal in his handwriting detailing his growing interest in forbidden rituals. Testimony from shopkeepers in Nocturne Alley who claimed he'd been a recent customer. All lies. All perfect, detailed, convincing lies. Harry's ministry-appointed defender was useless, merely going through the motions. And now came the worst part. "The Waisengamot calls Ronald Bilious Weasley," announced the court scribe. Ron walked in, dressed in formal robes, his face set in stone. He didn't look at Harry as he took the witness stand. "Mr. Weasley," began the prosecutor, "you've been Mr. Potter's friend for 14 years, is that correct?" "Yes." Ron's voice was tight. "And in recent months, have you noticed any changes in his behavior?" Ron hesitated. "He's been different since the final battle. More withdrawn." "Withdrawn how?" "He stopped coming to family dinners. Started spending more time alone. Said he was studying." "Did he tell you what he was studying?" Ron shifted uncomfortably. "Advanced defensive magic," he said. But what, Mr. Weasley?" "I saw some of the books. They weren't just defensive. Some looked darker." Harry stared in disbelief. The books in his flat were standard Auror training materials. He'd been preparing for the Auror exams. "And the Elder Wand," the prosecutor continued. "Mr. Potter kept it, despite claiming he would return it to Albus Dumbledore's tomb. Did this concern you?" "I asked him about it once. He got angry, said it wasn't my business." "That never happened." Harry had never discussed the wand with Ron after the battle. "Mr. Weasley, on the night of July 24th, you were with Mr. Potter until what time?" "Around midnight. We celebrated his birthday early at the Leaky Cauldron, then Hermione and I walked him home." "And his demeanor that night?" Ron glanced at Harry for the first time, then quickly away. "He seemed preoccupied. Kept checking the time. When we offered to stay longer, he practically pushed us out the door." Lie after lie. Harry had been tired that night, yes, but he'd never rushed them out. "Thank you, Mr. Weasley. No further questions." Harry's defender barely asked anything, merely confirming that Harry had never explicitly mentioned Dartmoor or the victims. As Ron left the stand, Harry called out, "Why are you lying?" Ron stopped, his back to Harry. Without turning, he said quietly, "I'm not, mate. That's the problem." Then he walked out. Hermione was next. Her testimony was more measured, more reluctant, but ultimately just as damning. "Ms. Granger, you're known to be exceptionally observant. Did you notice any changes in Mr. Potter's magical abilities recently?" Hermione twisted her hands in her lap. He started performing wandless magic about 3 months ago. Nothing major, just summoning objects, lighting candles. But he never explained how he learned it. And did this coincide with his more secretive behavior?" "Yes," she admitted. Harry began declining invitations, saying he was researching something important. When I asked to help, he refused. "In your expert opinion, Ms. Granger, could Mr. Potter have been studying dark magic during these private sessions?" Hermione looked pained. I suppose it's possible. The wandless magic he demonstrated is uncommon without extensive training. And the journal found in his flat, detailing ritual magic research. You've examined it. Is it his handwriting? She nodded reluctantly. It appears to be, yes. Ms. Granger, as someone who knows Harry Potter better than most, do you believe him capable of performing dark magic? Hermione finally looked directly at Harry, tears in her eyes. The Harry I knew wouldn't. But people change. The war changed all of us. Harry felt like he'd been struck. Even Hermione. Even she believed it. The prosecution called expert after expert. The magical signature analysis. The wand testing results. The ritual reconstruction. Then, unexpectedly, the Wisengamot calls Luna Lovegood. Luna drifted in, looking ethereal as always. Her robes were bright yellow, standing out sharply against the somber courtroom. She smiled directly at Harry as she took the stand. Ms. Lovegood, you were part of Mr. Potter's circle during the war, correct? Oh yes, Luna said airily. Harry is my friend. Is, not was. Interesting choice of words. Have you maintained regular contact with the accused? Not as much as I'd like. Harry's been busy, and I've been traveling for the Quibbler. When you did see him, did you notice the behavioral changes others have described? Luna tilted her head. Harry has always been himself with me. Quiet sometimes, yes, but never dark. The prosecutor frowned. Are you aware he's been practicing wandless magic? Many wizards can do small wandless spells with practice. I can summon my shoes without a wand, which is useful since people often hide them. A titter ran through the courtroom, quickly silenced by the chief warlock. Ms. Lovegood, do you believe Mr. Potter could have performed the rituals described in evidence? Luna looked directly at the prosecutor. No. Harry doesn't have the knowledge for that type of magic. Those rituals require understanding of principles he's never studied. How would you know what he studied privately? Because those particular rituals require understanding the cosmic harmonic theory of magic, which isn't taught at Hogwarts and isn't in any books in common circulation. You'd need access to private collections like my father's or the Malfoys. The prosecutor blinked, clearly not expecting such a specific answer. Furthermore, Luna continued calmly, the ritual described would be impossible to perform alone. It requires at least 3 casters maintaining separate magical harmonies. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Ms. Lovegood, are you claiming to be an expert on dark rituals? On magic theory, yes. Dark or light is just intent. The principles are the same. Luna's testimony created the first crack in the prosecution's case, but it wasn't enough. The physical evidence was too strong. The final surprise came when Draco Malfoy was called. He strode in confidently, dressed in impeccable black robes. Unlike the others, he looked directly at Harry with a slight nod before taking the stand. Mr. Malfoy, your family has a documented history with dark magic. In your expert opinion, could Harry Potter have performed these rituals? Draco's voice was cool. Potter doesn't have the training or background. These aren't spells you pick up from a book in a few months. Yet the evidence is too perfect, Draco interrupted. No ritual is that clean. There would be failed attempts, practice runs. Potter's magical signature is all over the scene, but there's no gradation showing the learning curve. Are you suggesting the evidence was fabricated? I'm stating it outright. Someone wanted Potter to take the fall, and they did a detailed job of setting him up. The prosecutor's face hardened. Given your family's history with he who must not be named, isn't it more likely you're attempting to protect one of your own? Draco laughed coldly. Potter and I aren't friends. I have nothing to gain by defending him. But I do recognize a frame job when I see one. The testimony continued for hours. Harry watched in growing despair as the case against him solidified despite Luna's and Draco's support. The journal. The wand evidence. The magical signature. The lack of alibi. And worst of all, the testimony from those who should know him best that he had changed, become secretive, different. Finally, the chief warlock addressed him directly. Harry Potter, do you wish to testify in your own defense? Harry stood, the magical restraints loosening enough to allow it. I am innocent. I did not kill those people. I did not perform any dark ritual. Someone has gone to extraordinary lengths to frame me, and I demand the right to proper investigation. The investigation was thorough, Mr. Potter. It was rushed and predetermined. I saved the wizarding world from Voldemort 6 months ago, and this is how you repay me. With a mockery of justice? Your past service is noted, but does not place you above the law. I'm not asking to be above the law. I'm asking for the law to be applied properly. Veritaserum. Pensive memories. A proper defense. Time to find the real killers. The chief warlock conferred briefly with other members of the Wizengamot. Veritaserum can be resisted by a wizard of sufficient power. Memories can be modified. The evidence speaks for itself. So that's it. You've already decided. The Wizengamot will deliberate. We will reconvene in 1 hour for the verdict. The verdict was guilty. The sentence, life imprisonment in Azkaban. As Aurors moved to take him away, Harry looked at the gathered crowd. Ron wouldn't meet his eyes. Hermione was crying silently. Luna looked sad but resolute. Draco watched with narrowed eyes, calculating. And in the back of the courtroom, a hooded figure slipped out unnoticed, the faintest smile playing on unseen lips. Azkaban without Dementors was still Azkaban. Cold stone walls. The constant crash of waves against the prison island. Isolation cells warded against magic. Harry sat on a thin mattress, back against the wall, eyes closed. 3 days in this place, and already he felt his mind fraying at the edges. Not from supernatural despair, the Dementors were gone, but from the sheer injustice of it all. Betrayed by almost everyone. Convicted of crimes he didn't commit. His life's work, defeating Voldemort, saving the wizarding world, forgotten in an instant. The cell door clanged. A guard entered with a tray of food. "Dinner, Potter," he said gruffly. Harry opened his eyes. "Has the minister responded to my request for appeal?" The guard snorted. Ministers got better things to do than listen to dark wizards. He dropped the tray on the floor. "Eat up." As the guard turned to leave, Harry noticed something odd. The man's movements were slightly mechanical, his eyes unfocused. "Wait," Harry said, standing. "Who are you?" The guard stopped, turned back, and smiled. It wasn't a guard smile. It was familiar somehow. "Hello, Harry Potter." The voice had changed, becoming feminine, lyrical. "How quickly they turned on you. Just as I said they would." The guard's face rippled like water, features shifting into Luna Lovegood. Luna? How? Polyjuice is simple when you add a confundus charm to the mix. The Real guard thinks he's on break. She glanced at the open door. "We don't have much time." "What are you doing here?" Harry whispered, stunned. "Breaking you out, of course." She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You didn't do what they claimed. The evidence was manufactured. You believe me? I never doubted you." Neither did Draco, oddly enough. "Draco's involved in this?" Luna nodded. "He's waiting with a portkey. International, untraceable." Harry shook his head. "Luna, this is madness. If you're caught, then I'll join you in here. Seems fair, since I'd rather be in Azkaban with an innocent friend than free in a world that imprisons heroes." She pulled out a wand and offered it to him. "This isn't yours, unfortunately. Ollivander made it secretly. Said he owed you a life debt." Harry took the wand cautiously. It felt strange, resistant, but usable. "The wards are temporarily down for this cell block. Draco has contacts. Corrupt ones, but useful." She checked a delicate silver watch. "We have 7 minutes before they reset." Harry's mind raced. Escape meant becoming a fugitive. Staying meant rotting in Azkaban for crimes he didn't commit. What about Ron? Hermione? Luna's expression softened. Ron believes you're guilty. Completely. Hermione, she's confused. Conflicted. She knows something's wrong with the evidence but can't reconcile it with what she thinks she knows. And the Real killers get away free. For now. But you can't find them from in here. Luna held out her hand. Come, Harry. Trust me. Harry took her hand. I'll find who did this. I'll make them pay. All of them. I know you will. Luna's smile turned sad. But remember who you are while you do it. They moved quickly through the corridors, Luna leading with confidence born of careful planning. Twice they froze as guards passed, Luna casting disillusionment charms that weren't perfect but sufficient in the dim light. The prison's anti-apparition wards extend a mile out to sea, Luna whispered as they reached a small maintenance door. We'll need to take a boat to the Portkey Point. There are patrol boats, Harry warned. Yes, watching for boats coming in. Not small boats going out. She tapped the door with her wand. Alohomora. Nothing happened. Luna frowned. That's odd. Draco said this door would be accessible. Harry studied the lock. Old, rusted, but with faint magical traces. It's warded, but crudely. He raised the new wand, focusing on the unfamiliar wood. Stand back. He didn't use Alohomora. Instead, he closed his eyes, focusing on the magic within the lock itself, feeling its pattern and resistance. Then he pushed with his own magic, not trying to unlock the door but to disrupt the ward. The lock made a sick, cracking sound, and the door swung open. Luna stared at him. That wasn't a standard spell. No. Harry didn't elaborate. Let's go. Outside, rain lashed against the prison walls. A narrow, treacherous path led down to a small dock where a single rowboat was tethered. There, Luna pointed. Quick, before the patrol comes around the eastern wall. They hurried down the path, slipping on wet stones. Harry caught Luna as she nearly fell, steadying her with strength that surprised even him. The weeks in Azkaban should have weakened him, but anger and determination had kept him focused, kept him strong. The rowboat looked barely seaworthy. Small, wooden, with a single pair of oars. It's enchanted, Luna explained, climbing in carefully. Draco's contact smuggles potions ingredients this way. Harry followed her in, taking the oars. Which direction? Luna pointed southeast. 3 miles. There's a small island, just a rock really. The Portkey is hidden there. Harry began to row, the unfamiliar wand tucked into his prison clothes. The waves were choppy, the wind fierce, but the little boat moved more smoothly than it should have, confirming Luna's claim of enchantment. Who do you think did it? Harry asked as they put distance between themselves and Azkaban. Who framed me? Luna was using her wand to cast some kind of detection spell over the water. Someone smart. Someone with access to your magical signature. Someone who knows dark magic but isn't on any watch lists. That doesn't narrow it down much. No, she agreed. But they also needed access to the Elder Wand before your arrest. That limits possibilities. Harry frowned. I kept it with me or locked it home. Did you? Always. He thought back. There was one time, at the Ministry Memorial Ceremony. I checked it with security because they were scanning for powerful magical objects. Who handled it? Ministry Security. But they gave me a claim ticket, and I got it back after. Luna nodded thoughtfully. Enough time to copy its magical signature, perhaps. Not enough to duplicate it entirely. A light suddenly swept over the water behind them, a patrol boat's searchlight cutting through the rain. Down! Harry pulled Luna low in the boat. They've spotted us. No, Luna whispered. Routine patrol. They sweep that light every 17 minutes. I timed it. Sure enough, the light continued its arc without pausing on their small craft. Harry resumed rowing, impressed by Luna's thoroughness. Why is Draco helping? He asked after a few minutes. He says it's because he recognizes a political hit job. I think it's because you saved his life in the room of requirement. Luna shrugged. Or maybe he just likes proving everyone wrong. They rode in silence for a while, the imposing silhouette of Azkaban growing smaller behind them. The rain was easing, which was both good and bad, better visibility for them, but also for any pursuers. There. Luna pointed to a dark shape emerging from the mist. A tiny island, little more than a jutting rock with a small flat area on top. Harry steered toward it, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Relief at escaping. Rage at being imprisoned in the first place. Determination to clear his name. And something darker, something he didn't want to name, a desire for vengeance against those who had betrayed him. As they approached the island, a figure appeared at its edge. Tall, blonde, unmistakable even in the dim light. You're late, Draco called quietly as they reached the rocky shore. The wards reset 7 minutes ago. They'll discover Potter's missing soon. Complications with the maintenance door, Luna explained, climbing out of the boat. Harry had to improvise. Draco looked at Harry with new interest as he stepped onto the rocks. Wandless magic in Azkaban. Impressive, Potter. Not entirely wandless. Harry patted his pocket where the new wand sat. Though it's not a great match. It'll do until you can get something better. Draco reached into his robes and pulled out what looked like a small silver compass. International port key. One-time use. It'll take you to a safe house in Egypt. Untraceable, unwarded, stocked with supplies. Harry took it cautiously. Why Egypt? Because no one will look for you there, and because it has the oldest magical libraries in the world. Draco's face was serious. If you want to find who framed you, you'll need knowledge beyond what's taught at Hogwarts. Why are you helping me, Malfoy? Draco's expression hardened. Because I know what it's like to be judged for something you didn't choose. And because whoever set you up is playing a game that affects all of us. Luna stepped forward. I've prepared a bag. She handed Harry a small beaded handbag that reminded him painfully of Hermione's. Undetectable extension charm. Clothes, books, some food, and all the money I could gather. Harry took it, his throat tight. I can't thank you enough. Both of you. Don't thank us, Draco said sharply. Clear your name. Find the real killers. And be careful who you trust, Luna added softly. Whoever did this had help. What about you two? They'll suspect you helped me. Draco smirked. I'm hosting a very public charity event at the manor right now, with 50 witnesses to my presence. Luna will join me there by another port key as soon as you leave. And the guard Luna impersonated? Will wake up with a headache and no memory of the last hour, Luna said. Standard memory charm. He'll assume he dozed off. A distant alarm began to wail, faint but unmistakable. They've discovered you're gone, Draco said tensely. Time to leave, Potter. Harry gripped the compass port key, but hesitated. When I find who did this, when I have proof. I'll contact you. Luna hugged him suddenly. Be safe, Harry. And remember, I know. Remember who I am. He managed a smile for her. I won't forget. Draco didn't offer a hand or any further sentiment, just a curt nod. The activation phrase is sanctuary. Good luck, Potter. You'll need it. Harry stepped back, holding the compass firmly. He took one last look at the dark shape of Azkaban, at the two unlikely allies who'd risked everything to free him. Sanctuary, he said clearly. The world spun away in a rush of color and sound. Kingsley Shacklebolt stared at the empty Azkaban cell, his face impassive despite the storm of emotions within. Aurors bustled around, checking for magical traces, questioning guards. "How did this happen?" he asked quietly. The prison warden wrung his hands. "We don't know, Minister. The guard remembers nothing. The wards were intact except for a 7-minute window during shift change, but that's standard procedure." "And the maintenance door?" "Forced, but not with any spell we recognize. The magical signature is unusual." Kingsley touched the cell wall, feeling residual magic. Not Harry's familiar signature. Something different. Something that made his skin prickle uncomfortably. "Minister," an Auror called from the doorway. "We found something." The Auror held up a small piece of parchment. Kingsley took it, reading the neat, precise handwriting. "When I return, you'll see what a real dark wizard looks like." "Is it Potter's handwriting?" the warden asked nervously. "Yes," Kingsley confirmed, recognizing it from years of Order communications. "Alert all departments. International cooperation. I want every possible exit point watched." "Do you think he's still in Britain?" Kingsley pocketed the note. "No. He's gone. But he'll be back." He gazed out the cell's tiny window at the dark sea beyond. "And when he returns, we'll all pay for what happened here." Ron Weasley sat alone in his flat, an untouched glass of fire whiskey on the table before him. The Prophet lay open to the headline, "Potter escapes Azkaban, threatens dark return." A knock at the door made him jump. He drew his wand before calling, "Who is it?" "It's me," Hermione's voice answered. Ron waved his wand, unlocking the door. Hermione entered, looking as haggard as he felt. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair untamed. "Have you seen this?" She held up her own copy of the Prophet. "Yeah." He gestured to his copy. "They're saying he left a threat." Hermione sat down heavily. "Do you believe it?" "Why wouldn't I?" "Because everything about this case feels wrong, Ron." She slammed her hand on the table. The evidence was too perfect. Harry's magical signature exactly matching the ritual site. His journal detailing plans he never mentioned to us. He changed, Hermione. We both saw it. Yes, he was more withdrawn. More serious. He'd just defeated Voldemort. He watched people die. Of course he changed. She ran a hand through her hair in frustration. But dark rituals? Murder? That's not Harry. Ron took a long drink from his glass. Then why did his wand show the spells? Why did his journal have the details? Why did he keep the Elder Wand? I don't know. That's what we should have been investigating instead of rushing to judgment. The evidence can be faked. Hermione stood up, pacing. You know what Luna said about the ritual requiring multiple casters? That never got properly addressed. Ron's face hardened. Luna Lovegood? You're taking her testimony seriously. She believes in Crumplehorn Snorkax. She also believed in Harry when we didn't. Hermione's voice broke. What if we were wrong, Ron? What if we helped send an innocent man to Azkaban? Ron couldn't meet her eyes. If he was innocent, he should have stayed and fought to prove it. Running makes him look guilty. Would you have stayed? Locked in Azkaban for life for something you didn't do? He had no answer for that. Hermione sat back down, her anger deflating into something sadder. I'm going to investigate. Properly. With or without you. Hermione, don't. The Ministry will see it as aiding a fugitive. I don't care. I need to know the truth. Ron reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Be careful, he said instead. If Harry really has gone dark. Then it's because we pushed him there, she finished quietly. By not believing in him when he needed us most. Neither spoke the fear that hung between them, that when Harry Potter returned, he would come for those who had betrayed him first. The Egyptian safe house was better than Harry had expected. A small but comfortable flat in magical Cairo, hidden behind Muggle-repelling and notice-me-not charms so powerful that even wizards would walk past without a second glance. Harry stood on the small balcony, looking out at the ancient city. Somewhere out there were the magical libraries Draco had mentioned. Knowledge that might help him understand what had happened and how to fight back. The weariness of escape was catching up to him, but his mind wouldn't quiet. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of those who had testified against him. Ron's refusal to meet his gaze. Hermione's tears and doubts. Luna and Draco, surprisingly, had been his only defenders. He fingered the unfamiliar wand, testing its weight and balance. Not a perfect match, but usable. His first task would be finding a better one. His second, learning magic beyond what Hogwarts taught, magic that would help him uncover the truth and confront those responsible. A tapping at the window drew his attention. A desert owl, tawny and fierce-looking, with a small scroll tied to its leg. Harry opened the window cautiously. The owl hopped in, extending its leg imperiously. The scroll bore no name or seal. Harry checked it for curses or tracking spells before untying it. The message inside was brief, written in a flowing script he didn't recognize. The Hall of Ancient Studies opens to those who seek forgotten knowledge. Ask for Nephthys at the Curved Fawn. Come alone. Come prepared. No signature. A trap. Possibly. But also his first lead. Harry pocketed the note and returned to the balcony. The sun was setting over Cairo, painting the city gold and crimson. Somewhere out there were answers. Somewhere out there was the path to becoming what he needed to be to face his betrayers. Not the boy who lived anymore. Not the chosen one. Something new. Something they would all learn to fear. Harry Potter closed his eyes, feeling unfamiliar magic stirring within him, power born of rage and betrayal and a burning desire for justice. Or perhaps vengeance. The line between them seemed increasingly blurred. When he opened his eyes again, his decision was made. Tomorrow, he would find the Curved Fawn. He would meet this Nephthys. He would begin learning what he needed to return to Britain and confront those who had destroyed his life. And when he did return, the wizarding world would understand what they had created when they betrayed their savior. Chapter 2, The Shadow Years. The Curved Fawn turned out to be a dive bar in magical Cairo's oldest district. Harry stood across the narrow street, studying the weathered sign showing a serpent's fawn bent into a crescent. The place looked about as welcoming as the Hog's Head on a bad day, windows grimy enough to block most light, doors scarred with what looked suspiciously like curse marks. Perfect place for an ambush. Or for meeting someone who didn't want to be seen. Harry adjusted his glamour with a quick touch of his wand. The face reflected in a nearby window wasn't his own, older, with darker skin, hair, and eyes. Nothing flashy, just another face in the crowd. The International Magical News hadn't published his photo yet, but it wouldn't take long. Here goes nothing, he muttered, crossing the street. Inside, the Curved Fawn was dim and smoky. A dozen patrons hunched over drinks at scattered tables, none looking up as Harry entered. The bartender, a huge man with an eye patch and forearms covered in moving magical tattoos, flicked his gaze toward Harry then immediately away. Harry approached the bar. I'm looking for Nephthys. The bartender didn't look up from the glass he was cleaning. No one by that name here. I received a message. Lot of messages in the world. Most of them lies. The bartender set down the glass. Drink? Fire Scorpion, Harry said, naming a drink Luna had mentioned in her notes about Egypt. The bartender's good eye narrowed. He reached under the counter and placed a small clay cup on the bar. It contained a clear liquid with something curled at the bottom that looked uncomfortably like an actual scorpion. 10 drachma. Harry paid with coins from Luna's beaded bag. The bartender counted them carefully, then nodded toward a curtained doorway. Through there. She doesn't like to wait. Harry left the untouched drink and headed for the curtain, wand ready in his sleeve. He pushed through into a small private room containing a single round table. A woman sat with her back to him, hooded in deep blue robes. Harry Potter, she said without turning. The boy who lived. The man who ran. I prefer the wizard who was framed, Harry replied, staying near the exit. You're Nephthys. Among other names. She turned, lowering her hood. She was perhaps 50, with smooth dark skin and striking eyes lined with kohl. Silver streaked her black hair, which was braided with tiny gleaming beads. Sit. If I wanted you dead, the scorpion venom would have done the job. You knew I wouldn't drink it. Of course. A test of caution, not stupidity. She gestured again to the empty chair. Your glamour is adequate for street crowds but embarrassingly obvious to a trained eye. That will be your first lesson. Harry sat slowly. You're offering to teach me. I'm offering to introduce you to those who can. Your situation has attracted attention. What kind of attention? Nephthys smiled slightly. There are circles, Mr. Potter, that watch magical Britain with concern. Your ministry believes itself the center of magical governance. We find this amusing. You're not Egyptian ministry. She laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. Egypt has had magic since before Britain had a name. Our governance is older. Different. She studied him with those penetrating eyes. You need allies. Knowledge. Power. We may provide these, under certain conditions. What conditions? That you learn before you act. That you understand before you judge. She placed a small wooden token on the table. It showed a stylized eye. And that you recognize there are games within games being played. Your framing was merely one move on a very large board. Harry picked up the token. It thrummed with magic against his fingers. Who set me up? That is a question with many answers, none simple. Nephthys stood. Take that to the Hall of Ancient Studies. Show it to the Guardian. Your first teacher awaits. Wait, Harry said as she moved toward a back door. Why help me? What do you get from this? She paused. Change is coming to magical Britain, Mr. Potter. It will spread. We prefer it comes through someone who understands the value of both justice and mercy. Her eyes held his. You still possess both, despite your anger. Don't lose them in your quest for vengeance. Before he could respond, she swept through the door and was gone. The Hall of Ancient Studies made the Hogwarts library look like a children's bookshelf. Vast and impossibly tall, with shelves that moved and rearranged themselves, texts in languages Harry didn't recognize, and silent robed figures gliding between stacks. The Guardian, a stern woman with eyes that glowed faintly blue, had examined Nephthys' token, then simply pointed Harry toward a reading alcove without a word. Waiting there was a small, hunched wizard who appeared ancient even by wizarding standards. White hair stood out from his head in wild tufts, and his skin was deeply tanned and wrinkled like old parchment. He looked up as Harry approached, eyes sharp despite his age. Finally, he croaked. Thought you might get lost. Happens to first-timers. His English carried an accent Harry couldn't place. Sit, sit. I'm Tamir. I'll be your first teacher. Harry sat opposite him. First teacher of what, exactly? Magic, of course. What else? Tamir cackled. But not the kind you learned at that Scottish school. Real magic. Old magic. He leaned forward. Magic before wands. Wandless magic. But that's, advanced. Difficult. Only for powerful wizards. Tamir waved dismissively. Nonsense. It's your first magic. The magic of children. The magic of intent. He pointed to Harry's pocket. Take out that wand you're clutching. The one that doesn't fit you. Harry hesitated, then placed Ollivander's emergency wand on the table. This? Tamir poked it with a gnarled finger. A crutch. Useful, yes, but limiting. He suddenly snatched the wand and tossed it behind him. It vanished among the stacks. Hey! Harry stood. I need that. No, you don't. Tamir remained seated, calm. Call it back. I can't just call it back. Harry glared at the old man, then sighed. Accio wand, he said, extending his hand. Nothing happened. Again, Tamir said. But this time, don't say the words. Feel the wand. It's connected to you now, however poorly. Feel that connection and pull. Harry closed his eyes, focusing. He'd done minor wandless magic before, simple spells like Lumos. But summoning an object from an unknown distance. Still, he tried to sense the wand, to feel its reluctant connection to his magic. There, a faint tug at his consciousness. He focused on it, imagining pulling it closer, drawing it to his hand. A clatter made him open his eyes. The wand lay on the table, having apparently knocked over a stack of books on its journey back. Tamir grinned. Good. Again. Faster this time. He grabbed the wand and flung it away in a different direction. Harry, more confident now, reached out with his magic immediately. The wand shot back to his hand so quickly it stung his palm. Better. Tamir clapped. Again. This continued for hours, Tamir finding increasingly creative ways to dispose of the wand, Harry summoning it with growing speed and confidence. By the end, Harry didn't need to concentrate hard at all, a mere thought brought the wand flying back. Enough for today, Tamir finally said, looking satisfied. Tomorrow we try without the wand at all. Why start with this? Harry asked, pocketing the wand. Why not defensive spells or tracking magic? Something I can use to find who framed me. Tamir's expression grew serious. Because, Harry Potter, before you can find your enemies, you must first find yourself. He tapped his chest. Your magic is not in that stick. It is in here. When you truly understand that, no prison can hold you, no enemy can disarm you, and no betrayal can break you. Months passed in a blur of learning. Harry moved from the safe house to a small apartment near the Hall of Ancient Studies, where he spent most of his days. Tamir's wandless magic lessons progressed rapidly from summoning to more complex spells. Magic, Tamir explained one day as they sat in a courtyard, levitating stones into complex patterns, is intent given form through will. Wand simply focused that will, making it easier but narrower. Harry guided 3 stones into a spinning triangle. Then why do most wizards use wands? Convenience. Consistency. Tradition. Tamir added his own stones to Harry's pattern, creating a 3-dimensional structure. And control. Control. Tamir closed his fist, and all the stones dropped. A question, Harry Potter. In your British school, when do they first teach wandless magic? Harry frowned. They don't, really. It's mentioned as an advanced skill some wizards develop later. Precisely. Tamir's eyes gleamed. Yet every magical child does wandless magic before getting a wand. Curious that they aren't encouraged to develop this ability, isn't it? Almost as if someone prefers wizards dependent on their wands. Harry had never considered this. You think it's deliberate? I think magical governance often confuses control with safety. Tamir stood. Enough philosophy. Today we begin elemental manipulation. By the 4th month, Harry could perform most standard spells without a wand, though complex magic still required more focus than with one. His power had grown, but more importantly, his understanding of magic had fundamentally shifted. Nephthys occasionally appeared to check his progress and direct new teachers his way. From Zara, a witch with a missing arm and uncanny battle reflexes, he learned magical combat beyond dueling, how to fight multiple opponents, how to layer defenses, how to turn environments into weapons. "Your British dueling is like dancing," she scoffed, sending a whirlwind of sand at Harry in their practice arena. "Real combat is survival by any means." From Cotham, a soft-spoken man with eyes like midnight, he learned mind magics far beyond what Snape had attempted to teach him. "Occlumency is not walls," Cotham explained, his mental presence ghosting around the edges of Harry's consciousness. "It is redirection. Make them see what you wish them to see." From others, he learned ritual magic, magical detection, disguise enchantments, and more. Some lessons were brutal, leaving him exhausted and sometimes injured. Others were enlightening, opening new perspectives on magic he'd never considered. Through it all, Harry's anger remained, a quiet flame burning at his core. He kept a journal detailing everything he remembered about his frame-up, adding new insights as his magical knowledge grew. The ritual described at his trial became clearer to him now, a complex working requiring multiple casters, significant preparation, and knowledge few possessed. At night, he often stood on his small balcony, looking at the stars and wondering what was happening in Britain. Had they stopped looking for him? Were Ron and Hermione still together? Had anyone else questioned his conviction? One night, 6 months into his exile, a familiar face appeared at his door. "You've improved your wards," Draco Malfoy said when Harry opened it. "I've been trying to find the magical signature for an hour." Harry kept his wand trained on the blonde wizard. "Prove your Malfoy." Draco rolled his eyes. "When I visited you in Azkaban, I said the evidence against you was too perfect. When I helped you escape, I told you to find who framed you because they're playing a game that affects all of us. Good enough." Harry lowered his wand but remained cautious. "How did you find me?" "With great difficulty and considerable expense." Draco glanced around the apartment. "May I come in before someone notices an obviously British wizard in this neighborhood?" Harry stepped aside. Draco entered, looking worn from travel but still impeccably dressed. He carried a sleek leather case which he placed carefully on Harry's table. "News from home," he said without preamble. "None of it good." "Tell me." "The ministry's in the middle of a security reorganization. Shacklebolt's still minister, but there's a new department, Magical Security and Information. They're basically running things now. Expanded surveillance, new restrictions on international travel, monitoring of magical signatures." "Looking for me?" "Partially. But I think your case was just the excuse they needed." Draco opened the case, revealing neatly organized folders. "Officially, you're Britain's most wanted criminal. Unofficially, the hunt has quieted. They make noise about catching you, but the actual resources assigned are minimal. They don't expect me to return," Harry concluded. "Or they want you to." Draco handed him a folder. "Granger's been busy. She's been researching your case, asking uncomfortable questions. She was nearly arrested last month for interfering with an ongoing investigation." Harry opened the folder to find newspaper clippings, notes in Hermione's handwriting, and what appeared to be copies of official documents. "She believes you now. She has doubts about the official story. Enough to risk her career at the ministry." Draco pulled out another folder. "Weasley, on the other hand, has been promoted. He's now deputy head of the Auror office." That stung more than Harry had expected. "And Luna? Laying low. She writes for her father's paper but avoids politics. She's watched, but not closely." Draco hesitated. "Potter. Harry. There's more. The Dartmoor site where the ritual supposedly took place. It's been classified. No access, no information released. I tried to get someone in to examine it, but it's under constant guard." Harry sat heavily. They're hiding something. Yes. And there's been another incident. Draco pulled out the final folder. 3 weeks ago, a ritual site was discovered in Cornwall. 5 dead. Similar magical signature to Dartmoor. They're blaming me? No. That's the interesting part. It's being kept quiet. Very quiet. I only know because my mother still has contacts in the Department of Mysteries. Harry leafed through the sparse details. Someone's continuing what they started. Exactly. And I think your frame-up was just the first step in something bigger. Draco leaned forward. What have you learned here? Harry studied Malfoy, considering how much to reveal. Enough to know that what happened at Dartmoor wasn't what they claimed. The magic involved is ancient. Pre-Hogwarts. It deals with something called soul anchoring. Draco paled slightly. Like Horcruxes. Related but different. Not splitting a soul, but binding it to something else. Transferring its properties. Why would anyone? Draco stopped. Power. They're trying to acquire someone else's magical power. Harry nodded. That's my theory. And if I'm right about the Cornwall incident, they're getting better at it. Draco stood, pacing the small room. This is worse than I thought. We need to, he stopped abruptly, turning to Harry. Show me. Show you what? What you've learned. What you can do now. Draco's eyes were intense. I need to know if you're ready. Harry considered this, then nodded. Fine. But not here. He led Draco to a small, warded practice space he rented nearby. Once inside, Harry sealed the door with a wave of his hand, activating protective enchantments without a word. Impressive, Draco murmured. Wandless and nonverbal. Harry stepped to the center of the room. You wanted to see what I can do. Without warning, he released the tight control he'd maintained over his magic. Power surged through him, visible as a faint aura that made the air shimmer. With a gesture, he conjured flames that circled the room, then transformed them into water, then into birds that flew in complex patterns before dissolving into light. Next, he focused on Draco, lifting him gently but firmly off the ground with nothing but directed will, then setting him down again. He summoned objects from around the room to orbit himself, transmuted them into different materials, then restored them. Finally, he drew his wand, not Ollivander's emergency creation, but a new one acquired through Nephthys connections. With it, his control tightened, and he demonstrated dueling spells of increasing complexity, ending with a shield charm so powerful it distorted the air around him. When he finished, Draco was staring, his usual composure shaken. That was not Hogwarts magic, he said finally. Harry put away his wand. No. It's older. Less restricted. I'm still learning. Potter, do you understand what you just showed me? That level of wandless magic, even Dumbledore rarely demonstrated such control. It's not about power, Harry explained, repeating Tamir's teachings. It's about understanding. Magic isn't just spells and wands. It's intent made manifest. Draco ran a hand through his hair, a decidedly un-Malfoy-like gesture of discomfort. If you return to Britain with these abilities, they'd fear me even more, Harry finished. Which is why I'm not going back. Not yet. When? Harry extinguished the lights with a thought, leaving only a soft glow around them. When I know who framed me, why they did it, and how to prove my innocence. And if you can't prove it? Harry's expression hardened. Then I'll settle for justice of another kind. 2 years into his exile, Harry had expanded his studies beyond Egypt. With Nephthys connections and Draco's occasional financial assistance, he traveled to magical communities in India, China, Peru, and other places where ancient magic was still practiced. In Tibet, he studied with monks who could manipulate their physical bodies through magical meditation. In the Amazon, he learned from shamans who communed with nature spirits, gaining insight into magic that worked with the environment rather than imposing upon it. Each journey added to his knowledge and power, but more importantly, to his understanding of what magic truly was, not just a tool but an extension of will and consciousness. He maintained his network of contacts through carefully worded communications. Luna sent coded messages through the Quibbler. Draco provided updates on British politics and the occasional rare book or artifact. Even Hermione managed to smuggle research notes to him through a complex chain of intermediaries. It was one of her messages that brought Harry to a hidden magical enclave in Greece, for years after his escape. "The Library of Echoes," said his guide, an elderly witch named Cassandra. "Few are granted entry. Your fortunate Nephthys vouched for you." The library was a series of caves in a remote mountainside, unremarkable from outside but vast and complex within. Unlike traditional libraries, it contained few books. Instead, the walls were covered with thousands of memory vials, glowing softly in recessed niches. "These are memories?" Harry asked, awed by the sheer number. "Memories, dreams, visions. The accumulated experiences of our greatest minds over 3 millennia. Cassandra led him deeper into the caves. "Your friend's message suggested you seek information on soul magic and identity transference." "Yes. Specifically, rituals that might allow one wizard to take on the magical signature of another." Cassandra paused, her wrinkled face grave. "Dangerous knowledge, Mr. Potter. I'm not seeking it for myself. Someone used such magic to frame me for murder. And you wish to clear your name?" "I wish to understand what really happened." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. The section on soul resonance is this way." For weeks, Harry immersed himself in the memories of ancient practitioners. He experienced, firsthand, rituals from eras long past. Some were beautiful and profound. Others were disturbing in their implications. All were educational. One memory in particular caught his attention, that of a Greek wizard from the 4th century BC who had discovered how to temporarily imprint his magical signature onto another wizard. The Mask of Resonance, the ancient wizard called it in the memory. A perfect disguise, for the magic itself is disguised. Harry emerged from the pensive shaken but enlightened. "This is it," he told Cassandra. "This is how they did it." "The mask ritual requires physical contact," she noted. "Your enemies would have needed your blood, hair, or similar." Harry thought back. "The Ministry Memorial. My hand was cut during the ceremony, symbolism for those who shed blood in the war. Everyone participated. And the blood was collected? In a ceremonial bowl. For a monument, they said." Cassandra's expression was grim. "There's your connection, Mr. Potter. Someone took your blood from that ceremony and used it to create a mask of resonance. Can I prove it? Perhaps. The ritual leaves traces, a magical echo in the caster. If you could examine those who had access to your blood." Harry ran a hand through his hair. "I'd need to return to Britain. Are you ready for that?" He didn't answer immediately. Was he ready? His magic had grown exponentially. His understanding of the forces involved far exceeded what any Hogwarts graduate could claim. But returning meant facing those who had betrayed him. It meant possible recapture. It meant confronting what he had become. "Not yet," he said finally. "There's more I need to learn first." In a manor house outside London, Hermione Granger carefully examined the documents spread across her desk. 5 years of research, interviews, and covert investigations had yielded a troubling picture. The knock at her door came right on schedule. She waved her wand, temporarily hiding the papers and disabling the wards. "Come in, Ron." Ron Weasley entered, still in his aura robes, looking tired but satisfied. At 30, his boyish features had hardened into a more authoritative appearance, befitting his position as head auror after Williamson's retirement. "Working late again?" he asked, bending to kiss her cheek. Just finishing up. She managed a smile. How was your day? Good. We've got a new lead on those smugglers in Dover. He loosened his collar, dropping into the chair opposite her desk. The minister's pleased. Hermione nodded, watching him carefully. 5 years of marriage, built on a foundation that had started to crack the day Harry Potter was arrested. She still loved Ron, but the distance between them had grown as she pursued her investigation and he rose through ministry ranks. Any news on the task force? She asked casually. Ron's expression tightened slightly. He knew which task force she meant, the one still nominally searching for Harry. Nothing worth mentioning. It's been years, Hermione. He's not coming back. You sound disappointed. I thought you considered him guilty. Ron sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that reminded her painfully of Harry. It's complicated. I believe the evidence, but... He trailed off. But what? Sometimes I dream about him. About the trial. In the dreams, he's always telling the truth, and I'm not listening. Ron's voice had grown quiet. Then I wake up and remind myself of the facts. Hermione wanted to show him the papers hidden on her desk, the inconsistencies she'd discovered, the witness statements that conflicted, the procedural irregularities. But she'd tried before, and it had only led to arguments. I'm sure it's nothing, she said instead. Just stress. Ron nodded, visibly relieved to drop the subject. Dinner? I was thinking we could try that new place in Diagon Alley. You go ahead. I really do need to finish here. After he left, Hermione restored her documents and strengthened the wards. Among the papers was a recent letter, delivered through their elaborate communication chain. The mask reveals the face beneath to those with eyes to see. 3 points of contact form the trinity of transfer. Blood willingly given forms the strongest bond. I found the how. Still seeking the who and why. When the time comes, look to the edge of the forest where we once followed spiders. Your friend, Thunderbolt. Hermione traced the lightning bolt drawn beside the signature. 5 years, and she still didn't know if she was corresponding with the Harry she'd grown up with or the dark wizard the ministry claimed he'd become. But she knew one thing with certainty: someone had manipulated them all, and she was getting closer to understanding who. 7 years into his exile, Harry found himself in a remote part of Russia, tracking rumors of a magical artifact that could reveal magical disguises, including the Mask of Resonance. His search led him to a dilapidated castle, long abandoned by its original inhabitants but now occupied by a secretive magical research collective. They call themselves the Verum Brotherhood, explained his local guide, a taciturn witch named Oksana. Seekers of hidden truth, they say. Others call them dangerous radicals. Harry, disguised by both magical and mundane means, approached the castle cautiously. How do I get in? You don't. They find you if they're interested. Oksana pointed to a small tavern in the nearby village. Wait there. If they want to talk, they'll make contact. 3 days Harry waited, growing increasingly frustrated. On the 4th night, as he sat nursing a vodka, a hooded figure slid into the seat opposite him. Harry Potter, said a voice, distorted by magic. A long way from home. Harry didn't flinch at the use of his real name. And you are? A messenger. The Brotherhood is intrigued by your search. The figure pushed a small wooden box across the table. A gift, to establish good faith. Harry didn't touch it. What is it? A memory. One we think will interest you greatly. The figure stood. Review it, then come to the castle gate at midnight tomorrow if you wish to proceed. After the figure left, Harry carefully examined the box for traps or curses. Finding none, he opened it to reveal a small crystal vial containing a swirling silver memory. Back in his rented room, Harry used a portable pensieve, a valuable tool acquired in his travels, to view the memory. He found himself in the Minister for Magic's office. Kingsley Shacklebolt sat at his desk, looking troubled. Across from him sat a wizard Harry didn't recognize, thin, aristocratic, with calculating eyes. "The Potter situation is contained," the unknown wizard was saying. "The public has accepted his guilt." Kingsley frowned. "There are still questions. Granger particularly is becoming problematic. She'll find nothing conclusive. We were thorough. And if Potter returns?" The thin wizard smiled coldly. "Then we implement contingency plan Merlin's shadow. The groundwork is already laid. I don't like this, Ashworth. Potter saved us all from Voldemort. And now we're saving magical Britain from threats it doesn't even recognize." The wizard named Ashworth leaned forward. "The statute of secrecy is failing, Kingsley. Muggle technology advances daily. We need to be prepared, need to have safeguards in place. There are other ways, there are not. The Dartmoor ritual was just the first step. The power we're accumulating will ensure magical Britain survives what's coming." The memory faded, leaving Harry stunned. He sat on his bed, mind racing. Kingsley knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. And this Ashworth, he'd never heard the name, but the man clearly held significant influence. The next night, Harry stood at the castle gate. It opened silently as he approached, revealing a courtyard where 3 robed figures waited. "Welcome, Mr. Potter," said the central figure, lowering his hood to reveal a man in his 60s with sharp features and intelligent eyes. "I am Dmitri Volkov, senior brother of Vurum. I believe we have much to discuss." Inside, the castle was a blend of ancient architecture and modern magical equipment. Laboratories, libraries, and what appeared to be ritual spaces filled the renovated interior. "We've been watching Britain for some time," Volkov explained as he led Harry to a private study. "Your ministry's recent activities concern us deeply. The memory you provided, who is Ashworth?" "Edmund Ashworth. Officially, he's an advisor to the Department of International Magical Cooperation. Unofficially, he heads the new Magical Security and Information Office." Volkov poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "He's also the architect of your downfall." Harry accepted the drink but didn't taste it. "You can prove this? We can show you more pieces of the puzzle." Volkov sat opposite him. "But first, tell me why you seek the Revealer's Glass." "To expose the magical signature disguise used to frame me." "A worthy goal, but limited." Volkov leaned forward. "What if I told you Ashworth's plans extend far beyond framing one wizard, however famous? What if the ritual that bore your magical signature was merely a test for something larger?" "The Cornwall incident," Harry said. 5 more deaths, similar ritual." Volkov looked impressed. "You're well informed for an exile." "Yes, and there have been others since, each carefully concealed from the public. We believe Ashworth's group is harvesting magical essence on an unprecedented scale." "For what purpose?" "That's what we're still determining. But based on fragments we've gathered, it involves a massive working design to alter the fundamental relationship between magical and non-magical humans." Harry thought of what he'd learned about soul magic over the years. "They're creating some kind of collective ward. A shield against muggles? Perhaps. Or something more invasive." Volkov studied him. "Mr. Potter, we have resources, intelligence, but limited ability to act directly in Britain. You, however." "You want me to go back," Harry said flatly. "To expose Ashworth. To stop whatever ritual they're building toward, yes. The Revealer's Glass would help you, certainly, but it's only one tool." Harry stood, pacing the study. "I've spent 7 years preparing, learning, growing stronger. But returning means facing those who betrayed me. It means becoming the dark wizard they already believe me to be. Perhaps." Volkov's voice was quiet. "Or perhaps it means showing them what true darkness looks like by contrast. Sometimes the best way to dispel shadows is with a brighter light." Harry stopped pacing. Show me everything you have on Ashworth and these rituals. Then I'll decide. For 2 months, Harry worked with the Verum Brotherhood, analyzing their intelligence, adding his own knowledge of soul magic and ancient rituals, and formulating a plan. Ashworth had created a cabal within the ministry, wizards and witches in key positions who believed in his vision of magical preservation at any cost. They had conducted at least 7 major rituals, each harvesting magical essence from victims chosen for their unusual magical talents. They're building towards something unprecedented, Harry told Volkov one evening as they reviewed a map showing the ritual sites. These locations form a pattern, a 7-pointed star centered on London. A containment pattern, Volkov agreed. Or a focus. Either way, the final ritual would logically occur here. He pointed to London itself. When? Our intelligence suggests preparations for a major magical event at the decade anniversary of Voldemort's defeat. 6 months from now. Harry stared at the map, at the pattern that had taken years to create while he was in exile. Then that's when I return. At the celebration, when they're all gathered. A dramatic entrance, Volkov noted with a slight smile. But effective. We can provide support, intelligence, but the confrontation must be yours. I'll need the Revealer's glass. It's yours. Along with whatever else we can offer. Volkov studied him. You've changed, Harry Potter. The boy who defeated Voldemort could never have unraveled this conspiracy. The man before me can. Harry looked up from the map, his green eyes hard with determination. That boy trusted too easily. Believed in institutions. Expected fairness. He traced the pattern of ritual sites with one finger. The man knows better. 9.5 years after his escape from Azkaban, Harry Potter stood on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, the wind whipping his cloak around him. Behind him, a small cottage served as his final preparation point before returning to Britain. Inside, Luna Lovegood waited, having secretly joined him a month earlier. Her presence had been unexpected but welcome, a reminder of friendship uncomplicated by betrayal. It's almost time, she said when he re-entered the cottage. The celebration preparations are underway. Invitations sent. Harry nodded, studying the magical model they'd created of the Ministry atrium where the 10th anniversary celebration of Voldemort's defeat would be held. All the important wizards and witches would attend, Ministry officials, international representatives, heroes of the war. And, he suspected, every member of Ashworth's cabal. The wards will be at their strongest, he noted. Security tighter than ever. Which is why no one will expect you to simply walk in through the front door. Luna smiled serenely. Sometimes the obvious approach is the most surprising. Harry returned her smile briefly. How's Draco's progress? He secured his invitation as a reformed Death Eater and contributor to reconstruction efforts. He'll be in position to open the secondary wards when you need them. And Hermione? Luna's expression softened. Still investigating you after all these years. Still convinced of your innocence. She and Ron continue their complicated relationship. Harry tried not to think about his former friends too much. Ron's betrayal still burned. Hermione's initial doubt had hurt almost as badly, though her subsequent efforts to clear his name had softened his anger somewhat. Nephthys contacts confirmed that Ashworth's group is preparing for something significant, Luna continued. Unusual magical components being gathered, specialized personnel being positioned. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Harry turned to the collection of objects laid out on the table, tools and artifacts gathered over nearly a decade of preparation. The Revealer's glass. A wand crafted specifically for him by a master wandmaker in Japan. Protective amulets. Specialized potions. And at the center, a small golden device that resembled a pocket watch. The time turner? Luna asked, noticing his focus. Not exactly. The Verum Brotherhood calls it a moment anchor. It doesn't allow true time travel, but it can reset a very short period for the user. A second chance in a critical moment. Sounds like something we could have used at Hogwarts, Luna said lightly, though her eyes remained serious. Harry picked up the device, feeling its magic pulse against his palm. One use only. Let's hope we don't need it. He tucked it into an inner pocket of his robes, then turned to Luna. Last chance to back out. When I reveal myself at the celebration, anyone associated with me will be at risk. Luna's dreamy expression cleared, replaced by unusual intensity. I believed in you when no one else would. I'm not abandoning you now when it actually matters. She touched his arm gently. Besides, someone needs to make sure you remember who you are when you face them. Harry covered her hand with his. And who am I, Luna? Not the boy who lived. Not the dark wizard they fear. Her eyes held his. Just Harry. Who always tries to do what's right, even when it's difficult. Even when he's angry. He wanted to believe that was still true. 10 years of exile, of studying magic most wizards never encountered, of nursing betrayal and plotting return, it changed a person. Sometimes, in quiet moments, he wondered if he'd become exactly what they accused him of being. 3 days, he said, returning to the plans. Then we find out if 10 years of preparation was enough. The morning of the celebration arrived with perfect weather, clear skies over London, almost as if magically arranged. Perhaps it had been. In his ministry office, Ron Weasley adjusted his formal robes, medals of service prominent on his chest. As head of the Auror office, he would be a central figure in today's ceremonies. A knock at his door preceded Hermione's entrance. Despite their strained relationship, not quite separated but certainly not as close as they once were, they maintained appearances for professional events. Ready? She asked, her own formal robes elegant but understated. Just about. He gestured to the security plans on his desk. Triple-checking everything. Intelligence has been picking up unusual magical activity. Nothing specific, but better safe than sorry. Hermione nodded. Ron, there's something I wanted to ask before the ceremony. He looked up, noting the serious expression. What is it? If Harry were to return today, hypothetically, what would you do? Ron stiffened. Is there something you know that I don't? Just answer the question. Please. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. My job, Hermione. I'd do my job. Even if you had doubts. Even if there was evidence he was framed. We've been over this 100 times. The evidence can be manufactured. You know that better than most. She stepped closer. Ron, I've spent 10 years researching what happened. The ritual site, the magical signature matching, the convenient journal, it was all too perfect. And you found no concrete proof of tampering, he countered. Just theories and coincidences. Because someone very powerful has blocked every avenue of investigation. She pulled a folder from her robes. But I found something. Something concrete. Ron hesitated, then took the folder. Inside was a detailed analysis of magical residue patterns. What am I looking at? Comparison of Harry's known magical signature from Auror training records versus the signature found at Dartmoor. Hermione pointed to specific patterns. They match perfectly. Too perfectly. Meaning? Meaning natural magical signatures have variations, fluctuations. Harry's training records show these normal variations. The Dartmoor signature doesn't, it's an exact copy of one specific reading, not a natural presence. Ron studied the analysis, professional instincts warring with years of certainty. This isn't conclusive. It's enough for reasonable doubt. Enough to reopen the case. He closed the folder, expression troubled. Why bring this to me now, today of all days? Hermione held his gaze. Because I think something's going to happen at the celebration. Something connected to why Harry was framed in the first place. You think he's coming back? She didn't answer directly. Just promise me you'll remember he was our friend once. That we owe him the benefit of doubt we never gave him before. Ron placed the folder on his desk, straightening to his full height. I have responsibilities, Hermione. To the Ministry. To magical security. And to the truth, she said quietly. Don't forget that one. As she turned to leave, Ron called after her. I'll look at the analysis. After the ceremony. That's all I can promise. Hermione nodded, not quite smiling but with a flash of the old warmth in her eyes. That's all I'm asking. The Ministry atrium had been transformed for the celebration. Magical banners commemorating the victory over Voldemort hung from the ceiling. A temporary stage had been erected where the Fountain of Magical Brethren once stood. Security checkpoints verified the identity of each arriving guest. Harry, disillusioned and cloaked with magic far beyond standard concealment spells, watched from a shadowed alcove as the hall filled with wizards and witches in formal attire. His magic-enhanced vision identified familiar faces, Ministry officials, former Order members, international dignitaries. And there, Edmund Ashworth, moving confidently through the crowd, stopping to speak with various officials. He looked exactly as he had in the Verum Brotherhood's memory, though 10 years older. Distinguished, authoritative, trusted. The architect of Harry's downfall. Through their magical connection, Harry sensed Luna's presence on the opposite side of the atrium. Draco was visible near one of the secondary exits, playing his role of reformed Death Eater with practiced ease. The ceremony began with speeches. The Minister for Magic, still Kingsley Shacklebolt after all these years, welcomed everyone and spoke of recovery, of rebuilding, of remembering sacrifices made. Harry's attention, however, was on Ashworth and several other Ministry officials he'd identified as part of the Cabal. They seemed alert, expectant. Not focused on the ceremony but on something else. His suspicions were confirmed when, during a moment of silence for the fallen, Harry detected a subtle magical pulse emanate from beneath the stage. Invisible to most, it resonated through the atrium at a frequency he recognized from his studies of ritual magic, an activation signal. The ritual was beginning now, using the gathered magical community as unwitting participants. Harry touched the communication amulet at his throat. It's starting, he whispered to Luna and Draco. Activation pulse from beneath the stage. Security is shifting positions, came Draco's response. Moving to cover exits. Secondary magical signatures activating around the perimeter, Luna added. 7 points, just as predicted. Harry extended his magical senses, feeling the pattern forming, 7 points of focus around the atrium, connected by lines of power to the stage. The gathered witches and wizards felt nothing, but their collective magical presence was being channeled, directed. On stage, Ron Weasley had stepped up to speak as head of the Auror office. Behind him sat a row of officials, including Ashworth, who was subtly directing his wand beneath the table before him. It was time. Harry removed his disillusionment and stepped from the shadows. No dramatic entrance, no explosion of power. Simply a man walking calmly toward the stage, his steps deliberate. The first person to notice him was a security wizard who did a double take, then reached for his wand. Harry immobilized him with a wandless, wordless spell so subtle it appeared the man had simply frozen in surprise. The next was a witch who gasped loudly enough to draw attention from those nearby. The recognition and subsequent reaction spread like ripples in a pond. Harry Potter, someone whispered, the name quickly repeated throughout the crowd. On stage, Ron faltered mid-speech, his eyes widening as he spotted Harry approaching. Kingsley half rose from his seat. Ashworth's face showed a moment of genuine shock before smoothing into calculation. Harry continued his steady walk toward the stage, making no aggressive moves but projecting an aura of absolute confidence. The crowd parted before him, a mix of fear, confusion, and awe on their faces. It's him. Potter's returned. Call the Aurors. He's already surrounded by Aurors, you idiot. Security wizards moved to intercept him, but hesitated, unsure how to handle this unexpected development before so many witnesses. Harry stopped at the foot of the stage, looking up at Ron, whose face had gone pale. "Hello, Ron," Harry said, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent atrium. "Don't let me interrupt. Please, continue explaining how safe magical Britain is under your watch." Ron found his voice. "Harry, you shouldn't have come back. I had no choice. Not with what's happening here today." Harry gestured to the stage beneath their feet. "Not with the ritual that's been activated under this very stage." Gasps and confused murmurs ran through the crowd. Ashworth stood smoothly. "Mr. Potter," he said, his voice commanding attention. "A surprising return after 10 years as Britain's most wanted criminal. Aurors, detain him." Several Aurors moved forward, wands raised. Harry didn't draw his own wand, didn't shift his stance. "Before you attempt that," he said calmly, "you might want to know exactly what Edmund Ashworth has been doing with the power of his office. How many ritual murders he's commissioned. How he framed me to remove a potential obstacle to his plans." "Desperate lies from a desperate fugitive," Ashworth said dismissively. "Minister, I suggest we clear the atrium and handle this situation securely." Kingsley looked troubled. "Harry, surrender yourself. We can discuss your accusations through proper channels." "The time for proper channels is long past." Harry finally drew his wand, not with a flourish, but deliberately, controlled. "I'm here to stop what's happening beneath our feet. A ritual designed to harvest the magical essence of everyone in this room to power a working that would fundamentally alter the relationship between magical and non-magical worlds." The confusion in the crowd grew. Hermione had pushed her way to the front, her eyes locked on Harry with a mixture of relief and concern. "Enough of this," Ashworth snapped. "Aurors, take him." As the Aurors advanced, Harry raised his wand. Not toward them, but toward the ceiling. "Revelio verum." The Revealer's glass, concealed in his other hand, glowed brilliantly. A wave of pure magical revelation swept through the atrium, making the air shimmer like heat over pavement. And suddenly, the invisible became visible. Lines of magical energy connecting 7 points around the atrium glowed sickly green. A swirling vortex of power beneath the stage revealed itself, pulsing with increasing intensity. Most shocking to the observers, Ashworth and 6 other ministry officials now glowed with the same energy, their magical auras distorted and overlaid with patterns that weren't their own. "What is this?" Kingsley demanded, backing away from Ashworth. "This," Harry said clearly, "is the truth. Edmund Ashworth and his associates have been conducting ritual murders for years, harvesting magical essence to power a massive working. Today's celebration was to be the culmination, using your gathered magical energy to complete a ritual that would place all non-magical humans under a form of magical subjugation." Ashworth's face contorted with rage. "You understand nothing, Potter. The statute of secrecy is failing. Muggles advance their technology daily. Without this protection, magical kind will be exposed, hunted, destroyed." "Protection?" Harry countered. "You're attempting mass mind control. Enslavement. Necessary sacrifice for magical survival." Ashworth raised his wand. "And you won't stop it." He fired a killing curse directly at Harry. Many screamed, but Harry didn't move. Instead, the deadly green light hit an invisible shield inches from his body and dissipated harmlessly. "Ancient protection magic," Harry explained conversationally. "Something I learned during my exile. Along with this." He made a complex gesture with his free hand. The floor beneath Ashworth and his 6 associates glowed with intricate patterns, and suddenly they were frozen in place, not by a simple body bind but by magic that seemed to grip their very magical cores. "Soul binding," Harry continued. "Temporary, but effective. It restrains not just the body but the magic within. The crowd was dead silent now, watching in awe and fear as Harry Potter, the convicted dark wizard, the decade-long fugitive, calmly neutralized 7 powerful wizards without breaking a sweat. The ritual is still active, Luna's voice came suddenly as she approached the stage. It's building toward critical mass. Harry nodded. Draco, the containment wards. Across the atrium, Draco Malfoy cast a complex spell at one of the walls. Sections of the Ministry's defensive wards briefly became visible, then reconfigured to form a containment shell around the ritual energy. Everyone out. Harry commanded. The atrium isn't safe. The crowd needed no further encouragement, rushing toward the exits that Draco had ensured remained open. Aurors, to their credit, helped maintain order in the evacuation. Only a few remained, Harry, Luna, Draco, and surprisingly, Ron and Hermione, who had moved to Harry's side. How can we help? Hermione asked without hesitation. Harry glanced at her, then at Ron, who looked conflicted but determined. The ritual needs to be dismantled carefully or it could release all its accumulated energy at once. I need to access the focus point beneath the stage. I'll cover you, Ron said firmly, surprising Harry. Whatever's happening here is bigger than our history. Together, they approached the stage where Ashworth and his associates remained bound. The ritual energy was now visibly swirling beneath them, a maelstrom of magical power collected over years of preparation. We need to redirect it, Harry explained as they descended the stairs beneath the stage. Release it safely rather than try to contain it. The ritual focus was immediately apparent, a crystalline structure pulsing with accumulated magical essence, surrounded by runes and anchored by what appeared to be personal items from the ritual victims. Merlin's beard, Ron whispered. This is advanced dark magic. Beyond dark, Harry corrected, kneeling to examine the setup. This is primordial magic. Manipulation of magical essence itself. He looked up at Hermione. I need your help with the arithmetic calculations for a controlled release. Without hesitation, she knelt beside him, examining the patterns. The 7 points connect here, forming a compression matrix. If we reverse the flow, it could backfire, Harry warned. The energy needs somewhere to go. Luna joined them, her usual dreamy expression replaced by intense focus. The ley line beneath the Ministry. It can absorb the excess safely if we align the release correctly. For 10 minutes, they worked in tense concentration, Harry and Luna manipulating the ritual components, Hermione calculating safe release parameters, Ron and Draco maintaining the containment wards and watching for any reaction from the bound conspirators. Ready, Hermione finally said. On your mark, Harry. Harry positioned his wand at the crystal's core. 3, 2, 1. Finite Ascension. The crystal glowed blindingly bright, then cracked along precise lines Hermione had calculated. The accumulated energy flowed down through the floor, following Luna's guidance into the natural magical conduit beneath London. A deep rumble shook the Ministry, but the catastrophic release they feared didn't materialize. Instead, the energy dissipated in a controlled fashion, leaving the ritual components inert and lifeless. Harry sat back, momentarily exhausted. 10 years of preparation, of learning, of planning, culminating in this moment. Ashworth stopped. The ritual dismantled. His name, well, that remained to be seen. Harry, Hermione said softly. I'm so sorry. For doubting you. For not fighting harder. He looked at her, at the genuine remorse in her eyes. You figured it out eventually. You kept searching. Too late to prevent this. She gestured to the ritual remains. Too late to save you from exile. Maybe exile was what I needed. Harry stood, facing both her and Ron. It taught me about magic beyond what Hogwarts offers. About people beyond our small community. Ron stepped forward awkwardly. Harry, I don't know what to say. The evidence seemed so clear. It was meant to, Harry replied, his voice neutral. Ashworth needed me gone. I was too high profile, too likely to notice what he was doing. Still, I should have, yes, you should have. Harry's tone hardened. You were my best friend, Ron. You testified against me without once considering I might be innocent. Ron flinched but didn't argue. You're right. And I've had nightmares about it for years. If there's anything I can do now. There is. Harry turned toward the stairs. Help me prove what Ashworth did. All of it. Not just today's ritual, but the framing, the murders, everything. You have my word, Ron said firmly. As they returned to the main atrium, they found Kingsley and several senior Aurors examining the bound conspirators. Potter, Kingsley said carefully. Your timing was remarkable. My intelligence is good, Harry replied simply. Minister, these 7 have been conducting ritual murders for years. The evidence exists, though they've tried to conceal it. The Verm Brotherhood has compiled much of it already. The Verm Brotherhood? Kingsley looked startled. They're considered extremists by most magical governments. They're considered truth-seekers by those who bother to investigate rather than accept official narratives, Harry countered. Their evidence, combined with what you'll find here, will prove everything I've claimed. Including my innocence in the Dartmoor massacre. Kingsley's expression was grave. Harry, even if what you say is true, and I'm inclined to believe it after what I've witnessed, you're still a fugitive who escaped lawful imprisonment. There are procedures, I'm aware of ministry procedures, Harry cut him off coldly. They failed me 10 years ago. I have little faith in them now. What are you saying? Harry looked around at the atrium, at Ashworth and his associates, still bound by his magic, at Luna and Draco standing supportively nearby, at Ron and Hermione, their faces showing a complex mix of emotions. I'm saying that I didn't return to be judged by a system that already failed me once. His voice was quiet but carried clearly. I returned to prevent a catastrophe and expose corruption. I've done that. And now? Kingsley asked. Now I provide you with everything I've learned about Ashworth's operations. I assist in dismantling any remaining magical threats his group created. Harry's green eyes were steady, unflinching. And then I leave, unless you can guarantee a truly fair review of my case. Murmurs ran through the remaining officials and Aurors. Kingsley looked troubled. You were once an Auror candidate, Harry. You believe in justice. I believe in truth, Harry corrected. Justice is a human construct, imperfectly applied. I've seen too much to trust it blindly again. Hermione stepped forward. Minister, I've been researching Harry's case for years. There's substantial evidence of tampering and frame-up. Given what we've seen today, a full review is the minimum appropriate response. With independent observers, Draco added smoothly. To ensure transparency. Kingsley considered this, then slowly nodded. Very well. A full independent review. And until its conclusion, you will remain free but under observation. Whose observation? Harry asked skeptically. Mine, Ron said firmly. As head Auror, I'll take personal responsibility. Harry studied his former friend, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, he nodded once. Acceptable. For now. As ministry officials began securing the area and taking formal custody of Ashworth and his associates, Harry found himself momentarily alone with Luna. 10 years, he said quietly. 10 years of exile, of learning, of preparing. And it comes down to this, trust the system that failed me, one more time. Luna took his hand gently. Not the system, Harry. The people. Ron, Hermione, even Kingsley, they've seen the truth now. They can't unsee it. And if the review finds against me again? She smiled her serene smile. Then we disappear again. Together this time. I've always wanted to study the magical creatures of the Amazon. Despite everything, Harry found himself smiling back. I could show you the temples there. The magic is incredible. Over the next weeks, Harry worked closely with ministry investigators, sharing everything he had learned about Ashworth's operations. The evidence was damning: detailed records of ritual murders, plans for magical subjugation of Muggles, and the elaborate frame-up that had sent Harry to Azkaban. The review of his original case proceeded with international observers from the ICW. Hermione presented her research, including the analysis showing his magical signature had been copied rather than naturally present at Dartmoor. The revealer's glass demonstrated conclusively how the Mask of Resonance ritual had been used to imprint his magical signature on the crime scene. Throughout it all, Harry maintained a careful distance from his former life. He stayed in a warded safe house rather than at the Ministry's offered accommodations. He spoke professionally with Ron and Hermione but avoided deeper reconnection. The wounds of betrayal had scarred over during his decade of exile, but they hadn't vanished entirely. Only with Luna did he allow himself moments of vulnerability, of uncertainty about what would follow. "If they clear my name," he said one evening as they sat in a safe house garden, "what then? I'm not the same person who left. I don't fit in their world anymore." "Then make your own place," Luna suggested. "You have knowledge few British wizards possess. Skills that could help many. Perhaps teaching. Or research." Harry considered this. Perhaps. Or perhaps it's time for Harry Potter to truly disappear. Not in exile this time, but into a new identity altogether. Luna studied him thoughtfully. "Is that what you want? After fighting so hard to clear your name?" "I fought to expose the truth and stop Ashworth. My name." He shrugged. "It's brought me more trouble than joy over the years." "Well," she said practically, "whatever you decide, remember you're not alone this time." 3 months after his dramatic return, the official verdict came. Harry Potter was formally exonerated of all charges related to the Dartmoor massacre. Edmund Ashworth and his co-conspirators were charged with multiple counts of murder, conspiracy, and magical violations so serious that new legal terminology had to be created to encompass them. The wizarding press had a field day, of course. From villain to victim to hero again, Harry Potter's story sold papers like nothing else. Theories abounded about where he'd been, what he'd learned, how powerful he'd become. Harry ignored it all, focusing instead on ensuring that all traces of Ashworth's ritual magic were properly dismantled and the victims properly acknowledged. He worked with Hermione to establish new magical detection protocols that would prevent similar dark workings from going unnoticed in the future. And when it was done, when the last ritual site had been cleared, when Ashworth and his associates were imprisoned, when his name was officially cleared, Harry Potter stood on the same cliff where he had planned his return, looking out over the Atlantic. 10 years in exile, he said to Luna, who stood beside him. Learning, growing stronger, planning my return. Becoming the darkest wizard since Merlin, they claimed. And now, she asked. Harry turned to face her, the wind whipping his cloak around him. In his eyes was something new, not the anger that had driven him for a decade, but a clarity that came from its resolution. Now I become something else entirely, he said. Something beyond their labels and expectations. Beyond dark or light. Just Harry, she suggested with a smile. He smiled back, taking her hand. Just Harry. With 10 years of extraordinary magic at my fingertips and a future finally my own to shape. Behind them, the sun set on one chapter of Harry Potter's life, even as it promised to rise on another, one written not by prophecy or persecution or the expectations of others, but by his own hard-won wisdom and power. The boy who lived had indeed vanished. The dark wizard they feared had never truly existed. And what had returned was something new, a wizard who had walked through darkness and emerged not consumed by it, but transformed. Chapter 3, The Dark Return. Harry stood on the balcony of his new home, a modest cottage nestled in the hills outside Hogsmeade. 6 months since his exoneration, and he still couldn't get used to the idea of staying in one place. 10 years of constant movement had ingrained restlessness into his bones. "Tea's ready," Luna called from inside. He smiled, watching her through the window as she arranged cups and saucers with her characteristic blend of precision and dreaminess. Of all the changes in his life, her steady presence was the most unexpected and welcome. "Coming," he replied, taking one last look at the distant outline of Hogwarts before heading inside. The cottage interior reflected their shared sensibilities, practical furnishings alongside peculiar magical artifacts, bookshelves overflowing with texts from Harry's global travels, and Luna's strange specimens floating in colorful jars. Not exactly conventional, but it felt right. "The Quibbler's running another piece on Ashworth's remaining followers," Luna said, handing him a steaming cup. "Daddy thinks some have infiltrated the Department of Mysteries." Harry sipped his tea. He might be right. Kingsley's purge was thorough, but organizations like that put down deep roots. "Are you worried?" "Always." He set down his cup. "But that's not what's on my mind today." Luna tilted her head curiously. "McGonagall's offer?" Harry nodded. The Hogwarts headmistress had approached him last week about creating a new position, Professor of Advanced Magical Theory. A class for 7th years interested in magic beyond the standard curriculum. "I'm not sure I'm teacher material," he admitted. "And returning to Hogwarts feels like going backwards," Luna suggested. "Exactly." An owl tapped at the window, interrupting their conversation. Harry recognized the ministry seal on the envelope it carried. "Speaking of going backwards," he muttered, opening the window. The letter was brief but pointed. "Harry, need to meet urgently. Something's happened that connects to Ashworth's work. International implications. My office, today if possible." Ron. Harry handed the note to Luna. His relationship with Ron remained professional rather than friendly, too much history, too much hurt on both sides. But they'd developed a working respect over the past months as they dismantled Ashworth's network. "You should go," Luna said after reading it. "Ron wouldn't reach out if it wasn't important." Harry sighed. "I know. Just once, I'd like a full week without some magical crisis." "Boring," Luna said with a smile. "You'd hate it." He laughed, knowing she was right. For all his talk of settling down, part of him thrived on challenges. "Coming with me?" "I can't. Meeting with Professor Hagrid about those thestral behaviors I've been tracking." Harry nodded, heading to their bedroom to change into more formal robes. His public appearances still drew attention, and a visit to the ministry would be no exception. "Be careful," Luna called as he prepared to apparate. "And remember, I know," he said with a small smile. "Remember who I am." With a crack, he vanished. The ministry had changed significantly since Harry's return. Kingsley had implemented reforms, transparency measures, and a complete reorganization of several departments. Ashworth's former Magical Security and Information Office had been disbanded, its legitimate functions distributed elsewhere, its corrupt elements prosecuted. Still, Harry felt a familiar tension as he passed through the security checkpoint. Too many memories, too much history. "Wand, please," said the security witch, not looking up. Harry placed his wand on the scanner, not his original phoenix feather wand, which had never been recovered, but a new creation. 15 inches of ancient cedar with a dual core of thunderbird tail feather and white river monster spine. Unusual, powerful, and uniquely suited to his evolved magical abilities. "Purpose of visit?" the witch asked mechanically. "Meeting with Head Auror Weasley." She finally looked up, eyes widening in recognition. "Mr. Potter." "I'm sorry, I didn't." "It's fine," Harry said, used to these reactions. "Just doing your job." The witch hurriedly returned his wand with a nervous smile. "Of course, sir. You can go right up." The Auror department had been relocated to level 2 following the reorganization. Harry took the elevator, ignoring the stares and whispers from other ministry workers. His return and exoneration had made him even more famous, if such a thing were possible. Harry. He turned to see Hermione hurrying toward him as he stepped off the elevator. She'd recently been appointed head of the newly created Department of Magical Ethics and Oversight, a watchdog organization designed to prevent another Ashworth situation. Hermione, he greeted her with a small nod. Their relationship had thawed more than his and Ron's, but remained complicated. "You're part of this meeting too?" "Ron just called me in. Something about illegal magical experimentation in Eastern Europe." She fell into step beside him. "How have you been?" "Fine. Luna and I are settling in." "That's good." Hermione hesitated. "Harry, I've been meaning to ask, are you considering McGonagall's offer?" "News travels fast. It's an excellent opportunity. The students would benefit enormously from your knowledge." Harry glanced at her. "Still trying to manage my life, Hermione." She flushed. "Sorry. Old habits." They reached Ron's office in uncomfortable silence. The door was open, revealing Ron in conversation with a wizard Harry didn't recognize, tall, dark-skinned, with intense eyes and an aura of authority. "Harry, Hermione, come in," Ron said, looking up. "This is Kamal Nazari, head of the International Magical Security Cooperative." Nazari extended his hand. "Mr. Potter. An honor. Your work exposing Ashworth was remarkable." Harry shook his hand, sensing powerful magic in the man. "Thanks. What's this about?" Ron closed the door and cast privacy wards, serious ones, Harry noted. "Not standard ministry protocol." "We've got a situation," Ron began, gesturing everyone to seats around a large tactical table. 3 days ago, a magical research facility in Romania was attacked. Everyone inside killed, equipment and research stolen. "What kind of research?" Hermione asked. Nazari tapped the table, activating a magical projection showing a remote mountain facility. They were studying magical essence transference, continuing some of Ashworth's theoretical work, but under strict ethical guidelines and international oversight. "Why continue it at all?" Harry asked sharply. "That research cost lives." "Because the underlying principles have legitimate applications," Nazari explained. "Magical healing, core stabilization for children with dangerous accidental magic, temporary power augmentation for hazardous magical containment." Ron expanded the projection to show interior scenes of the facility, laboratories destroyed, bodies outlined on the floor, magical residue patterns highlighted. "Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for," he continued. "They took only specific research materials and left behind a magical signature we've seen before." He tapped the table again, and a new pattern appeared in the projection, one Harry recognized immediately. "The Mask of Resonance," he said quietly. "Someone's using the same technique Ashworth used to frame me." "Yes," Nazari confirmed. "But more sophisticated. This signature is modulated, adaptable. It can mimic different magical cores with minimal preparation. An evolution of Ashworth's method," Hermione concluded. Harry studied the pattern, recognizing elements he'd spent years learning to identify. "Whose signature did they use this time?" Ron and Nazari exchanged glances. "Yours, Harry," Ron said finally. "They left your magical signature at the scene." The room went silent. Harry felt a cold anger settle in his stomach. "Someone's trying to frame me again." "It appears so," Nazari agreed. "Though given your public exoneration, it's a puzzling choice." "Unless the point isn't to frame Harry," Hermione said slowly. "But to send him a message." Harry nodded, having reached the same conclusion. "Someone from Ashworth's network survived the purge. Someone who knows exactly how I was framed before. They're telling me they can do it again." "That's our assessment," Ron confirmed. "And there's more. Based on what was stolen, we believe they're attempting to complete what Ashworth started, a large-scale magical essence transference." But without the limitations of his approach. Limitations? Ashworth's method required ritual sacrifice, Nazari explained. Messy, detectable, limited in scale. The Romanian research had developed a theoretical model for essence transfer without killing the donor. Temporary magical dampening rather than permanent extraction. Which means they could potentially affect thousands simultaneously, Hermione realized. Drain just enough magic from an entire population to fuel, what exactly? That's what we don't know, Ron admitted. But given Ashworth's goals, control of Muggles, Harry finished. But more efficient, more subtle. Potentially, Nazari agreed. We're tracking magical equipment purchases, unusual movements, anything that might indicate where they're operating from. Harry stood, pacing the room. This isn't just about equipment or locations. It's about knowledge. Whoever's doing this needs expertise in soul magic, in essence transference, in the mask ritual. That limits the pool of suspects. We've identified 3 potential leaders, Ron said, changing the projection to show profiles. Former associates of Ashworth who escaped the initial roundup. Olivia Blackwood, Theodore Knott, and Bastien Rousseau. Harry studied the faces. Blackwood was a former unspeakable, specialized in magical energy patterns. Knott had been at Hogwarts with them, later becoming an artifact dealer with questionable connections. Rousseau was unknown to Harry, a French magical theorist who had consulted for the British ministry during Ashworth's tenure. What do you need from me? Harry asked, turning to face the others. Your expertise, Nazari replied. You've spent years studying the very magics involved. You understand how the mask ritual works better than anyone. And... He hesitated. And I'm the bait, Harry finished flatly. They used my signature. They want me involved. You don't have to do this, Hermione said quickly. The IMSC has resources, I'm doing it, Harry cut her off. This started with my framing. It should end with me too. He looked at Ron. What's the plan? We've traced magical components similar to those stolen to a location in the Carpathian Mountains. Remote, magically significant. We're assembling a team to investigate, but carefully. If they detect a large magical force approaching, they'll either flee or accelerate their timeline, Harry nodded. You need someone who can get close undetected. Someone with your particular skills, Nazari confirmed. Your training in wandless magic, in magical detection, in disguise enchantments. Combined with your personal connection to the case. Harry considered for a moment. I'll need parameters. Intelligence. Support ready if things go sideways. Of course, Ron agreed. We're not sending you in blind. And I work with my own team, Harry added. Luna. Draco if he's willing. People I trust absolutely. Hermione and Ron exchanged a look at the implicit message, that Harry didn't count them among those he trusted absolutely. Neither challenged it. Agreed, Nazari said. We can coordinate logistics immediately. Harry nodded. I'll contact Luna and Draco. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning, Ron said. We'll brief the full team tonight. As the meeting concluded and plans were made, Harry felt that familiar tension returning, the readiness for action, for danger, for stepping once more into the unknown. Part of him had been waiting for this, he realized. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because deep down, he'd always known Ashworth's defeat couldn't be the end. Magic like that, knowledge like that, it never simply disappeared. It waited, adapted, evolved. And now it had found a new vessel. One that had specifically called him out. As he left the ministry to prepare, Harry wondered if he'd ever truly escape the darkness that seemed determined to define his life. Well, this is familiar, Draco drawled as they gathered in a secure ministry briefing room that evening. Potter rushing into danger, the world hanging in the balance. Nostalgic, isn't it? Luna agreed serenely, examining the tactical map spread across the table. Harry snorted. If you'd rather sit this one out, Malfoy, and miss seeing whatever new impossible magic you've mastered. Hardly. Despite his sarcasm, Draco looked serious as he studied the intelligence reports. Besides, I have personal interest in ensuring Ashworth's legacy is completely eradicated. My family's reputation is finally recovering. The room filled with the full response team, Ron and two trusted Aurors, Hermione representing her department, Nazari and his IMSC operatives, plus Harry, Luna, and Draco. Our target is here, Nazari began, activating a three-dimensional projection of a mountain valley. Remote area in the Carpathian Range. Historically significant magical convergence point, but little modern activity until recently. The projection zoomed in on a structure built into the mountainside, stone and magic blended seamlessly, with wards visible as shimmering layers to those trained to see them. Local magical signature monitoring has detected spikes consistent with essence transfer experiments, Nazari continued. Small scale so far, but increasing in power and duration. We believe they're building towards something significant. Any indication of timeline? Harry asked. Energy pattern analysis suggests they're approximately 2 weeks from completion of whatever they're building, Hermione replied. But that's assuming they maintain current progress rates. Ron took over. The approach is the challenge. Standard apparition is blocked beyond this perimeter. He indicated a boundary around the valley. The wards are sophisticated, detection, deflection, and some we haven't fully identified. I recognize some of these patterns, Harry said, studying the magical readouts. Egyptian derivation, but modified. Similar to what I encountered in the Hall of Ancient Studies. Can you breach them? Nazari asked. Not without alerting everyone inside. But I might be able to, slip between them. Harry's eyes narrowed in concentration. These wards are designed to detect magical signatures attempting entry. But with the right approach. You're thinking of shadow walking, Luna said, understanding immediately. Draco looked between them. What's shadow walking? A technique I learned in Tibet, Harry explained. Not true invisibility, but moving within the shadows of existing magic. Essentially becoming magically undetectable by synchronizing your core vibration with the ambient magic. That's theoretically impossible, Hermione objected. Magical cores maintain distinct frequencies. For wizards trained in European traditions, yes, Harry agreed. But there are other approaches. Nazari looked intrigued. You believe you can enter undetected using this method? I can get in. The question is whether I can bring others with me. I've practiced with Harry, Luna offered. I can maintain synchronization for about 30 minutes before it becomes unstable. I've never tried it, Draco admitted. But I'm a quick study. Harry nodded. The plan would be infiltration by the three of us. Reconnaissance only in the first phase. We identify the players, confirm what they're building, then extract to plan the next steps. If you're compromised? Ron asked. Emergency port keys, Nazari suggested. Specifically calibrated to punch through anti-transportation wards. They spent the next 2 hours refining the plan, analyzing intelligence, and preparing equipment. Harry would lead the infiltration team, with Ron coordinating external support and Nazari managing international resources if needed. As the meeting wrapped up, Hermione pulled Harry aside. This feels personal for you, she said quietly. Beyond the obvious connection to your framing. Harry considered deflecting but decided on honesty. It is personal. Whoever's behind this chose to use my signature specifically. They're not just continuing Ashworth's work, they're challenging me directly. Be careful that doesn't cloud your judgment. I spent 10 years learning to control my emotions, Hermione. I can handle this. She looked unconvinced. The Harry I knew was always led by his heart. That's not a criticism, it's what made you who you are. The Harry you knew went to Azkaban for crimes he didn't commit, he replied evenly. Then spent a decade in exile learning the hard way that heart isn't enough. You need discipline. Control. Just don't lose yourself in that control, she said softly. That's all I'm saying. Before Harry could respond, Luna approached. Ready to go home? We'll need to rest before tomorrow. Harry nodded, grateful for the interruption. Everything's set. Draco will meet us at the Ministry transport point at dawn. As they prepared to leave, Ron approached awkwardly. Harry, a word. Luna squeezed Harry's hand and moved away to give them privacy. What is it? Harry asked. Ron looked uncomfortable but determined. I know things between us are complicated. But I want you to know I've got your back on this one. Completely. Professionally, I never doubted that. Not just professionally, Ron insisted. Look, I know I can't erase what happened. My testimony, the way I turned on you. I've lived with that guilt for 10 years. Harry studied his former friend. The earnest blue eyes, the freckles now surrounded by faint lines of age and responsibility. So familiar, yet somehow belonging to a stranger. I appreciate that, Ron. I really do. But trust isn't something I give easily anymore. I understand. I just. Ron sighed. Be careful out there, yeah. And know that if things go sideways, I'll be there. No questions, no hesitation. Harry nodded, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Thanks. That means something. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't a restoration of their brotherhood. But it was something. A beginning, perhaps. Dawn in the Carpathians painted the mountains with golden light that belied the danger waiting in their shadows. Harry, Luna, and Draco had apparat to the outer perimeter of the warded zone, accompanied by Ron and 2 IMSC operatives who would maintain their extraction point. Communications will be limited once you're inside, Nazari reminded them through a secured magical link. The detection wards will flag any active magic use. Understood, Harry replied, checking his equipment one last time. He wore combat robes of charcoal gray, specially enchanted for stealth and protection. His wand was secured in a quick-draw holster, though he hoped to rely primarily on wandless magic to avoid detection. Various tools and potions were distributed in carefully warded pockets. Luna and Draco were similarly equipped, though Luna had somehow managed to incorporate earrings shaped like tiny radishes into her combat gear, for luck, she'd explained with perfect seriousness. Shadowwalking will feel strange the first time, Harry warned Draco. Like trying to breathe underwater. Your instincts will fight it. Just tell me what to do, Draco replied, his usual drawl replaced by focused attention. Harry positioned them at the edge of the ward perimeter. Form a triangle. Hands linked. Once they were in position, he continued, close your eyes. Feel the magic around you, the wards, the ambient energy, everything. They stood in silence for several moments, tuning into the magical frequencies surrounding them. Harry could sense the ward patterns clearly, complex, layered, dangerous. Now, synchronize with me, he instructed. Match your core's vibration to mine. This was the difficult part, the technique that had taken Harry months to master in a remote Tibetan monastery. He adjusted his own magical core, shifting its frequency to align with the ambient magic rather than standing distinct from it. Luna followed with practiced ease, her natural affinity for unusual magic making her a quick study. Draco struggled at first, his traditionally trained core resisting the unfamiliar pattern, but gradually Harry felt him align. Good, Harry murmured. Now we move as one. Slow steps. Stay synchronized. They began walking forward, still in triangular formation. As they reached the ward boundary, Harry felt the familiar sensation, like walking through a waterfall that somehow didn't wet them. The magic flowed around rather than against them, their adjusted signatures registering as nothing more than atmospheric fluctuations. Draco gasped slightly but maintained his focus. Luna smiled, her eyes still closed in concentration. Step by careful step, they penetrated the wards. One layer, then another, then a third. Harry counted 7 distinct ward boundaries before they reached the other side. "We're through," he whispered once they were clear. "You can open your eyes, but maintain the synchronization." They had emerged in a forested area about a kilometer from the main structure. From this vantage point, the facility was partially visible, a blend of ancient stonework and modern magical architecture built into the mountainside. "That was extraordinary," Draco murmured. "I've never felt anything like it." "Different approach to magic," Harry explained softly. "European traditions focus on asserting magical will against external forces. Eastern traditions often emphasize harmonizing instead." "Fascinating academic discussion," Draco replied dryly, "but perhaps we should focus on not getting killed by whoever's in there." Harry nodded, gesturing them toward a denser patch of forest that would provide cover as they approached. Moving with the silent precision of those trained in magical stealth, they made their way closer to the facility. As they neared, Harry extended his magical senses cautiously. The structure thrummed with power, active magic on multiple levels, with a particular concentration deep within the mountain itself. "I count at least 12 magical signatures inside," he whispered. "Varying strengths, but 3 particularly powerful cores." "Our suspected leaders?" Luna suggested. "Likely. Plus support staff, security." Draco pointed to a service entrance partially concealed by natural rock formations. "That looks promising. Less heavily warded than the main entrance." Harry nodded in agreement. They approached carefully, still maintaining their synchronized state, though Harry could feel Draco's control slipping slightly with the extended effort. "We need to move faster," he murmured. "Draco's synchronization is destabilizing." The service entrance was locked with both mundane and magical mechanisms. Harry examined them without touching, then made a subtle gesture with his fingers. The locks clicked open silently, responding to magic that matched the facility's own frequency rather than opposing it. "Inside, quickly," he instructed. They slipped through the door into a dimly lit corridor that appeared to be used for supply deliveries. Storage containers lined the walls, labeled in multiple languages. 30 minutes, Harry reminded them. "Reconnaissance only. We map the facility, identify key personnel, confirm what they're building, then extract." Luna nodded, already casting a passive magical detection spell that wouldn't trigger alarms, one of her specialties developed during her magizoological research. "Strong magical currents flowing downward," she reported. "Whatever they're building, it's below us." They moved through the corridor, encountering no one. The facility seemed to operate with minimal personnel, efficient, focused. They passed laboratories with equipment Harry recognized from his studies of essence transference magic, some active but unattended. Automated processes, Draco observed quietly. "They're letting magic do the work without constant supervision." "Smart." A soft sound from ahead alerted them. Harry gestured them into a recessed doorway as 2 robed figures walked past, deep in conversation. "Ready within 10 days if the calibrations hold," one was saying. "Rousseau wants the first test before the equinox. The containment field still fluctuates when pushed past 40% capacity," the other replied. "We need better stabilization before attempting full transfer." Once the figures passed, Harry exchanged glances with his companions. "Rousseau," he mouthed. One of their suspects confirmed. They continued deeper, following the magical currents Luna had detected. A stairwell led them down 3 levels into the mountain itself, where the ambient temperature dropped and the magical energy grew palpably denser. At the bottom of the stairs, they encountered a security checkpoint, empty at the moment, but equipped with magical identity verification systems. "Trouble," Draco whispered. "Those will detect even synchronized signatures if we try to pass." Harry studied the checkpoint, then pointed to a maintenance shaft visible through a grated panel in the wall. "Alternative route." The shaft was tight but navigable, carrying them past the checkpoint and into a larger chamber beyond. Here, they got their first real look at what they were dealing with. The chamber was vast, carved directly from the mountain stone, with a domed ceiling that glittered with embedded crystals. In the center stood a complex magical apparatus, concentric rings of metallic alloy suspended in the air, surrounding a central crystalline core that pulsed with blue-white energy. Around the apparatus, at least 8 wizards and witches worked at various control stations. Magical equations floated in the air, adjusting as parameters changed. Energy readings fluctuated across monitoring spheres. But what caught Harry's immediate attention were the 3 figures overseeing the operation from a raised platform. One he recognized immediately from the briefing materials, Bastien Rousseau, tall and aristocratic with silver at his temples. Beside him stood a woman who matched Olivia Blackwood's description, her dark hair pulled back severely, her movements precise and authoritative. The third figure was speaking too quietly to hear, his back to them, but something about his posture struck Harry as familiar. "That's it," Luna breathed. "A mass transference array. Theoretically capable of affecting magical cores within a radius of hundreds of kilometers," Harry finished. "If fully powered." Draco pointed to several containers positioned around the perimeter of the apparatus. "Those contain the stolen research materials. And look," Harry followed his gesture to a workstation where a familiar pattern was visible, the evolved mask of resonance ritual, now modified to work on a massive scale. "They're not just planning to drain magical essence," Harry realized. "They're going to redirect it through falsified signatures. Frame entire populations for whatever they're about to do." "We need to get closer," Luna whispered. "See exactly how the array is calibrated." Harry shook his head. "Too risky. We have confirmation of what they're building and 2 of our 3 suspects." "That's enough for the first." He stopped abruptly as the third figure on the platform turned, revealing his face clearly for the first time. It wasn't Theodore Knott. It was Edmund Ashworth. "Impossible," Draco breathed. "He's in Azkaban. I saw him sentenced personally." Harry's mind raced. Ashworth had indeed been imprisoned after the exposure of his conspiracy. Harry had testified at his trial, had watched him taken away. Unless. "The mask," Harry whispered. "They used it at his trial too. Someone else is in Azkaban wearing his magical signature, while the real Ashworth escaped." "We need to warn the others," Luna said urgently. "This changes everything." Harry nodded, already calculating how quickly they could extract and report this development. But before they could move, a subtle shift in the magical atmosphere made him freeze. "Something's wrong," he murmured. "The ambient magic is changing frequency." "They're scanning," Luna realized. "Actively sweeping for intruders." Harry could feel the synchronized disguise beginning to fail as the background magic they were matched to shifted. Draco, less experienced with the technique, was the first to become detectable. An alarm suddenly shrieked through the facility. Magical lights flashed red, and the workers in the main chamber looked up in alarm. "Intruders detected." Blackwood's voice rang out. "Security protocols activated." "Move!" Harry hissed. "Back to the shaft." They turned to retreat, but the shaft entrance sealed itself with a metallic clang. All around them, the facility was locking down, compartmentalizing to trap intruders. "Options?" Draco asked tensely, drawing his wand. Harry quickly assessed the situation. "We fight our way up and out. No more stealth." Before they could move, a voice called out, calm, amused, and terribly familiar. "I wouldn't bother, Mr. Potter. The emergency wards are quite thorough." Harry turned slowly to see Edmund Ashworth standing at the entrance to their hiding spot, flanked by Blackwood and Rousseau. All 3 had wands drawn but held casually, as if they faced no real threat. "Ashworth," Harry acknowledged, straightening to his full height. "Nice trick with the prisoner swap. Who's sitting in your cell?" "Some poor imperieused victim wearing your magical signature." Ashworth smiled thinly. Nothing so crude. A willing volunteer. A loyal follower who understood the importance of my work continuing. He studied Harry with cold interest. You've changed since we last met. Your magic has evolved. Fascinating. Can't say the same for you, Harry replied. Still working on the same failed project? Still think subjugating Muggles is the answer to magical preservation? My project never failed, Mr. Potter. It was merely interrupted. Ashworth gestured to the apparatus visible behind him. And it's been significantly improved. No more need for messy ritual sacrifices. Much more elegant now. We know what you're building, Luna said clearly. A mass transference array designed to drain magical essence from a population and redirect it through falsified signatures. Blackwood looked impressed. The blonde one is perceptive. But that's only part of the function. The rest is rather brilliant, if I may say so, Rousseau added, his French accent pronounced. The array doesn't just drain and redirect magical essence. It establishes a permanent control channel. Those affected become unwitting conduits for directed magical influence. Mind control, Draco translated flatly. On a massive scale. Guidance, Ashworth corrected. Gentle nudges to perception and behavior. Muggles who instinctively avoid magical areas. Who dismiss magical phenomena as imagination. Who feel uncomfortable pursuing certain technologies that might detect us. And wizards who oppose you? Harry asked. What happens to them? Ashworth's smile widened slightly. They find their magic mysteriously unreliable. Their influence waning. Their concerns dismissed as paranoia. You're insane, Draco said with genuine disgust. The magical backlash from something like this would be catastrophic. Hence the redirected signatures, Blackwood explained, as if to a slow student. The backlash will appear to come from specific sources. Sources we choose. Harry suddenly understood the full picture. That's why you used my signature at the Romanian facility. You're setting me up to take the fall when this goes wrong. Not just you, Ashworth replied. Various problematic individuals and groups. International incidents will proliferate. Chaos will reign briefly, until people turn to strong, established authorities for protection. Authorities like you, Luna concluded. Precisely. Ashworth gestured, and additional security wizards appeared behind them, cutting off any possible retreat. Now, I face a decision. Killing you would be simple but wasteful. Your magical essence, Mr. Potter, is quite remarkable. And your unique experiences make you particularly valuable as a study subject. Harry tensed, ready to fight. He caught Luna's eye briefly, a silent communication passing between them. Draco, too, shifted subtly into a dueling stance. However, Ashworth continued, I'm a practical man. Perhaps we can come to an arrangement. Your knowledge of essence magic clearly rivals our own. You've studied traditions we haven't accessed. Join us, and Harry didn't let him finish. With a sudden gesture, he released a pulse of wandless magic, not attacking Ashworth directly, but targeting the crystalline core of the apparatus visible behind him. The pulse connected, disrupting the delicate calibrations. Alarms blared louder as the apparatus began to destabilize, its rings spinning erratically. Now! Harry shouted. Luna immediately cast a blinding flash that filled the chamber, while Draco conjured a wall of silver mist between them and their captors. In the confusion, Harry grabbed his companions and pulled them toward a side passage he'd noted earlier. This way! Security wizards fired spells that dissipated in Draco's mist or went wide in their temporary blindness. The facility shook as the apparatus continued to destabilize, releasing waves of uncontrolled magical energy. Core breach imminent, someone shouted. Containment failing. Harry led Luna and Draco through the side passage, navigating by magical sense more than sight as they raced through unfamiliar corridors. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit mixed with increasingly urgent alarm warnings. "The wards are fluctuating with the power surges," Luna called as they ran. "If we time it right, we can break through during a fluctuation," Harry finished. "But we need to reach an exterior wall first." They rounded a corner and found themselves facing 3 security wizards. Before the wizards could react, Draco flicked his wand in a complex pattern, transmuting the floor beneath them into quicksand. They sank waist deep, momentarily trapped. "Nice one," Harry acknowledged as they leapt past the struggling wizards. "I've picked up a few tricks too," Draco replied with a hint of his old smirk. They found a maintenance corridor that angled upward, following it until they reached a locked door. Harry didn't bother with finesse this time, blasting it open with raw magical force. Beyond lay a small monitoring station built into the outer wall of the facility, with reinforced windows offering a view of the forested mountainside. "There." Luna pointed to the windows. "Direct access to the exterior." But before they could reach it, the door behind them burst open. Olivia Blackwood stood there, her wand extended, her face contorted with rage. "You've ruined years of work," she snarled, firing a vicious cutting curse. Harry deflected it wandlessly while drawing his actual wand with his other hand. The dual magical channels allowed him to both defend and counterattack, sending a concentrated magical pulse that would disrupt Blackwood's magical core temporarily. She blocked it with surprising skill, countering with a sequence of curses that forced all 3 of them to defend. The small room filled with magical discharge, equipment exploding around them. "We don't have time for this," Draco said through gritted teeth, maintaining a shield against Blackwood's onslaught. "The facility is becoming unstable." He was right. The entire structure shuddered, and the magical atmosphere was thick with discharged energy. If the apparatus fully breached, the resulting magical explosion could collapse the mountain. "Luna," Harry called, "the window." "On my mark." Luna positioned herself, wand ready. Harry waited for Blackwood to prepare another attack, then suddenly dropped to one knee, placing his palm flat on the floor. With a tremendous surge of concentrated will, he sent his magic directly into the mountain stone beneath them. The effect was immediate, a localized earthquake that threw Blackwood off balance and cracked the walls around them. "Now," he shouted. Luna blasted the window with a concentrated reducto, shattering the reinforced glass and creating an exit. Draco followed immediately with a shield expansion that cleared the remaining shards. "Go!" Harry commanded, still channeling magic into the destabilizing floor. Luna and Draco leapt through the opening. Harry prepared to follow, but Blackwood recovered faster than expected. Her curse caught him in the side as he turned, burning through his protective robes and searing his flesh. Harry gasped in pain but used the adrenaline surge to fuel a final magical push. The floor beneath Blackwood gave way entirely, dropping her to the level below with a scream of rage. Clutching his injured side, Harry staggered to the window and threw himself through it. He landed roughly on the slope outside, where Luna and Draco immediately helped him to his feet. "You're hurt," Luna said, examining the wound quickly. "It'll hold." "We need distance," Harry managed through clenched teeth. The wards, as if on cue, the magical perimeter around the facility became visible, the wards fluctuating wildly as the power systems within the mountain failed. "There." Draco pointed to a section where the magical barrier was thinning. "That's our way out." Supporting Harry between them, they raced toward the weakening ward line. Behind them, the mountain rumbled ominously. Magical energy crackled visibly around the facility, arcing like lightning into the sky. They reached the fluctuating ward just as a massive surge caused it to momentarily vanish. Seizing the opportunity, they pushed through, feeling the familiar resistance of the boundary magic wash over them. Then they were through, stumbling into the clear zone beyond. The extraction point, Luna reminded them, pointing to a ridge where their support team waited. They had barely covered half the distance when a tremendous explosion rocked the mountain behind them. Turning, they witnessed the facility imploding, magical energy collapsing inward before bursting outward in a spectacular shockwave. Down! Harry yelled, pulling his companions to the ground. The magical shockwave passed overhead with a sound like 1,000 screaming voices. Trees bent, rocks cracked, and for a moment, reality itself seemed to warp around them. Then it was past, dissipating into the atmosphere with steadily diminishing ripples of power. Silence fell, broken only by their heavy breathing and the distant sound of falling debris. Did we just, Draco began, accidentally destroy their entire operation? Yes, Luna finished, brushing dirt from her robes as she stood. Though I suspect that's not the end of it. Harry winced as he got to his feet, the wound in his side burning fiercely. Ashworth survived. I'm certain of it. He wouldn't be in the blast zone without protection. At least we've set him back significantly, Draco noted, surveying the devastated facility. That apparatus took years to build. Ron and the extraction team were racing toward them, having witnessed the explosion from their position. Harry! Ron called as he reached them. What the hell happened? We lost communication, then the whole bloody mountain exploded. Ashworth's alive, Harry replied grimly. He faked his imprisonment. And what they were building was worse than we thought. You're injured, Ron noticed, gesturing to Harry's side where blood had soaked through his robes. It's fine. We need to report what we found. Immediately. Despite his protests, Harry was quickly treated by one of the IMSC medics while Ron established a secure communication link with Nazari. The full debriefing would wait until they returned to London, but the essential information needed to be transmitted immediately: Ashworth's deception, the mass transference array, the planned false flag operation. International alerts are being issued, Ron reported after speaking with Nazari. Teams are moving to verify Ashworth's supposed location in Azkaban. He'll have contingencies, Harry said, grimacing as the medic applied healing charms to his wound. Secondary facilities, backup plans. We'll find them, Ron assured him. The important thing is we know what we're dealing with now. As the emergency port keys were prepared for their return journey, Luna sat beside Harry, taking his hand in hers. You were right, she said quietly. It's not over. It never seems to be, he replied, suddenly feeling the full weight of exhaustion. Sometimes I wonder if it ever will be. Luna studied him with her uniquely perceptive gaze. That's not what's really bothering you, is it? Harry sighed. When I saw Ashworth, when I understood what he was doing. I wanted to kill him, Luna. Not capture him, not bring him to justice. End him. But you didn't. No. Instead I destroyed his facility, possibly killed others in the explosion, and still let him escape. Harry looked at his hands. What does that make me? Human, she replied simply. A human making difficult choices in impossible situations. Before Harry could respond, Draco approached. Port keys are ready. They want to move us quickly in case there are other facilities nearby that might send reinforcements. Harry nodded, accepting Luna's help to stand. The healing charms had stabilized his injury but not completely healed it, that would require more extensive treatment back in London. As they gathered around the port keys, Harry cast one last look at the destroyed mountain facility. Somewhere out there, Ashworth was regrouping, planning his next move. The game wasn't over, it had merely entered a new phase. And deep inside, Harry knew this confrontation had been building for 10 years. Since his framing, his imprisonment, his escape. Everything had led to this moment, this revelation. The dark wizard he'd been accused of becoming had always been Ashworth, a shadowy reflection, a future that could have been his if he'd chosen different paths during his exile. The port key activated, pulling them away in a swirl of magic. As the Carpathian Mountains vanished, Harry made a silent promise to himself: this would end. One way or another. 2 days later, Harry stood in the minister's office as Kingsley Shacklebolt read through the complete mission report. The room was crowded: Ron, Hermione, Nazari, senior ministry officials, and representatives from magical law enforcement agencies across Europe. So Edmund Ashworth has been free this entire time, Kingsley said heavily, setting down the report. And the prisoner in Azkaban? A devoted follower using an advanced version of the mask ritual, Nazari confirmed. We've confirmed it with specialized detection spells. He's maintained the deception for 6 months. The impersonator refuses to reveal Ashworth's location or plans, Ron added. Even under Veritaserum, he simply repeats that, the work continues. Kingsley turned to Harry. And you're certain the apparatus was destroyed completely? The facility was obliterated, Harry confirmed. But the plans exist. The research was partially salvaged, according to what we observed before the explosion. Ashworth can rebuild, given time and resources. Which is why we need to locate any secondary facilities immediately, Hermione interjected. My department is cross-referencing magical material purchases with known associates of Ashworth. We've identified 3 potential locations. We've also increased security on magical population centers, Nazari said. The array they were building had a specific target radius that would have covered most of magical Britain and parts of France and Germany. Discussion continued about response strategies, international coordination, and enhanced security measures. Harry participated when necessary but found his mind returning to the moment he'd recognized Ashworth, the shock of seeing the architect of his downfall alive and free, continuing the very work Harry had stopped years ago. As the meeting concluded, Kingsley asked Harry to remain behind. When the others had filed out, the minister studied him with concern. How's the injury? Healing, Harry replied. St. Mungo's did good work. Kingsley nodded, then got to the point. I'm concerned about your involvement in this, Harry. Ashworth's focus on you, using your magical signature, potentially planning to frame you again, makes this personal. It's been personal since he framed me the first time, Harry said evenly. That doesn't mean I can't be objective. I know you've changed. Grown. Your magical abilities are, frankly, astonishing. But personal vendettas cloud judgment. Harry considered his response carefully. Minister, I spent 10 years learning to separate emotion from action. I understand the risks. But I also understand Ashworth better than anyone else. I know how he thinks because I've spent years unraveling what he did to me. Kingsley sighed. I can't deny your expertise is valuable. Just promise me you'll work within the system on this. No lone wolf operations. I'll coordinate with the Ministry and IMSC, Harry agreed. But I need operational flexibility. Traditional approaches won't work against someone like Ashworth. After further discussion, they reached a compromise. Harry would lead a specialized task force focusing exclusively on tracking and neutralizing Ashworth, with authority to operate across international boundaries but required to coordinate with official channels. As Harry left the ministry, he found Luna waiting for him in the atrium. How did it go? She asked, falling into step beside him. About as expected. I'm to hunt Ashworth, but with ministry oversight. And will you follow those parameters? Harry smiled slightly. As long as they don't interfere with actually finding him. They walked in companionable silence through the evening streets of magical London, eventually reaching a small park where they could speak privately. I've been thinking about McGonagall's offer, Harry said suddenly. Luna looked at him with interest. The teaching position? I thought you'd decided against it. I had. But after seeing what Ashworth is doing, what he's planning, I'm reconsidering. Why? Harry gestured vaguely. Knowledge. The magic I've learned, the traditions I've studied, they're not taught at Hogwarts. Not in Britain at all. We focus so narrowly on certain types of magic, certain approaches. And you think broader magical education would help counter threats like Ashworth? I think understanding that magic isn't just about power or technique might create wizards who question people like Ashworth rather than follow them. Harry sat on a bench, looking thoughtful. His followers believe in his vision because they don't understand alternatives. They see only control or vulnerability, domination or extinction. Luna sat beside him. So you'll teach when you're not hunting dark wizards? Busy schedule. I haven't decided yet, he admitted. Just thinking aloud. Luna was silent for a moment, then said, you know, there's a third option beyond teaching at Hogwarts or focusing solely on Ashworth. What's that? Create something new. A place for magical learning outside traditional institutions. Accessible to those who want to expand their understanding. Harry looked at her with surprise. You mean start my own school? Not exactly a school. More a gathering place. For exchange of magical knowledge across traditions. Her eyes brightened with the idea. The magical world is larger than most British wizards ever experience. You've seen that. Bring it here. The concept resonated with something Harry had felt during his years of exile, the vast diversity of magical approaches, the richness of traditions beyond European wandwork, the different ways of understanding the relationship between wizard and magic. That's actually brilliant, he said slowly. It wouldn't require ministry approval. Wouldn't tie me to Hogwarts curriculum constraints. And it could operate while you continue tracking Ashworth, Luna added. A dual purpose, expanding magical understanding while creating a network of wizards capable of recognizing and countering his approach. The more Harry considered it, the more the idea appealed to him. Not a formal school, but a center for magical exchange, a place where the knowledge he'd gained could be shared with those open to new perspectives. It would need a location. Resources. Connections to magical communities worldwide. All things we have access to, Luna reminded him. Between your connections through the Verum Brotherhood, my magizoological contacts, and even Draco's financial network. Harry felt something he hadn't expected, genuine excitement. Beyond the immediate threat of Ashworth, beyond the past traumas of betrayal and exile, lay a possibility of creating something meaningful. Something that might prevent future Ashworths by broadening magical understanding. The crossroads, he said suddenly. What? A name. For this place where magical traditions meet. Luna smiled. I like it. The crossroads. Where paths from different magical traditions intersect. They spent the evening developing the concept, Harry's focus temporarily shifting from the hunt for Ashworth to this new possibility. It felt right somehow, not just fighting against darkness but building toward light. 3 weeks later, Harry stood in the entrance hall of a sprawling country estate in Devonshire. The property, formerly owned by a pureblood family that had died out during Voldemort's first rise, had been acquired through Draco's business connections for a fraction of its value due to supposedly unstable magical foundations. Perfect for our purposes, Draco had explained when presenting the option. The magical instability is actually a confluence of ley lines that conventional wizards don't know how to manage. With your training in global magical traditions, you can harness it rather than fight it. Now, as Harry walked through the partially renovated space, he could feel the powerful currents of natural magic flowing beneath the property, untamed but not unmanageable with the techniques he'd learned in his travels. Luna joined him, carrying architectural plans. The East Wing renovations are ahead of schedule. We should have space for the first gathering within 2 months. And Ashworth? No confirmed sightings, she reported. But Nazari's team tracked magical equipment purchases to a location in Morocco. They're investigating. Harry nodded, trying to balance his focus between the two priorities, establishing the crossroads and hunting Ashworth. The specialized task force he led had investigated several leads, but Ashworth had gone deep underground after the Carpathian facility's destruction. I've contacted the first potential instructors, Luna continued, changing the subject. The Tibetan monk who taught you shadowwalking is interested. So is that Peruvian shaman who specializes in environmental magic. Tamir says he's too old to travel but offered to send his apprentice from Egypt. And Nephthys? Typically cryptic. Said she'll appear when the confluence reaches harmony. Luna shrugged. I think that's a yes, in her way. Harry smiled. For all its challenges, the project was progressing well. Word had spread through international magical channels about a new center for magical exchange opening in Britain, and interest was high, especially among younger witches and wizards seeking knowledge beyond standard educational paths. Even the ministry had cautiously endorsed the initiative after initial skepticism. Hermione had been particularly supportive, seeing it as an opportunity to broaden magical understanding in ways that aligned with her own reformist agenda. Potter. Draco's voice echoed from another room. You'll want to see this. They found him in what would become the main study hall, a magically expanded space with a vaulted ceiling designed to accommodate various types of magical practice. He was examining a message that had arrived by specialized courier. From my contact in the French ministry, he explained, handing the parchment to Harry. They've detected magical anomalies consistent with essence transference experiments in southern France. Small scale, but the signature matches what we saw in the Carpathians. Harry read the report quickly. Ashworth starting again. Testing new parameters. The location is remote, minimal magical population nearby, Draco continued. Likely a preliminary testing site rather than the main facility. Still, it's the first concrete lead in weeks, Harry noted. We need to investigate immediately. The task force can be ready by morning, Luna said. I'll contact Nazari. Harry nodded, but something about the report troubled him. The location was too obvious, the magical signature too easily detectable for someone as careful as Ashworth. It might be a diversion, he said slowly. Ashworth knows we're looking for essence transference signatures. This could be meant to draw our attention while he operates elsewhere. What are you thinking? Draco asked. We split our response. The task force investigates the French site, but we look for what might be hidden by this distraction. Luna caught on immediately. If this is a diversion, the real activity would need to be significant enough to warrant protection. Something major. Exactly. Harry studied the magical map they'd established on one wall of the study hall, tracking known associates of Ashworth, magical anomalies, and potential target locations. What's happening now that Ashworth might want to operate under cover of distraction? Draco suddenly straightened. The International Confederation Summit in Geneva. Next week. Every major magical government representative in one location. Perfect target for someone planning to influence magical governance, Luna agreed. Harry's expression hardened. That's it. The French site is bait to draw our security resources away from Geneva. I'll alert Kingsley and Nazari, Draco said, already moving toward the communication center they'd established. Wait, Harry called after him. No direct warning. If Ashworth has infiltrated the ministry again, we can't risk alerting him that we've seen through the diversion. Then what's the play? Draco asked. Harry considered for a moment. We publicly respond to the French site. Send the task force, make it visible. Meanwhile, we quietly insert a small team into Geneva to identify and counter whatever Ashworth is planning there. Small team meaning us, Luna clarified. Us and anyone else we trust absolutely. Harry looked between them. This ends now. One way or another, we finish what started 10 years ago. Geneva's magical quarter hummed with activity as delegates arrived for the International Confederation Summit. Security was tight but focused primarily on conventional threats, standard wards, identity verification, anti-concealment measures. None of which detected Harry, Luna, and their small team as they established position in a building overlooking the summit venue. Shadowwalking had gotten them past the perimeter wards, and specialized glamours concealed their presence from standard detection. Magical scanning complete, reported Padma Patil, who had joined their team after Harry reached out to former DA members he trusted. Now working as a magical security consultant, her expertise in detection spells was unmatched. No signs of large-scale magical apparatus within the venue. That doesn't mean Ashworth isn't planning something, Harry replied, studying the delegates entering the grand building. The mass transference array we saw was just one approach. He could have developed alternatives. Or he could be planning something entirely different, added Neville Longbottom, the fourth member of their team. Now a respected herbology professor at Hogwarts, he had immediately agreed to help when Harry contacted him. Assassination? Imperius? Magical mind control doesn't require massive apparatus if you're targeting specific individuals. True, Harry agreed. Focus on the delegates themselves. Look for behavioral anomalies, magical signatures that don't match their known profiles. They worked methodically, scanning each delegate as they arrived. Padma's detection spells were supplemented by Luna's unique perception abilities and specialized equipment Harry had acquired through his international contacts. Anything from the French site? Luna asked as they worked. Task Force reports minimal activity, Harry replied. Basic essence transfer experiments, lightly guarded. Definitely a diversion. Hours passed without detection of anything unusual. The summit began, with delegates gathering in the main chamber for opening ceremonies. Harry's team maintained vigilance, monitoring for any sign of Ashworth's interference. I'm starting to think we misread this, Neville said as afternoon stretched into evening. Maybe there is no plan for Geneva. No, we're missing something, Harry insisted. Ashworth is too methodical, too patient. The French site is definitely a diversion, which means something significant is happening elsewhere. What if it's not the delegates he's targeting? Luna suggested suddenly. What if it's the building itself? Harry turned to her. What do you mean? The ICW headquarters was built on a major magical confluence point. One of the strongest in Europe. If someone wanted to establish a wide-reaching magical effect, they couldn't ask for a better foundation, Harry finished, understanding immediately. Padma, scan the building's foundation. Look for modifications to the existing magical architecture. Padma quickly recalibrated her detection spells, focusing on the structure rather than its occupants. After several tense minutes, she looked up with alarm. There's something there. Subtle, woven into the existing protection wards. A secondary magical matrix that's gradually activating as more delegates arrive. What's it doing? Neville asked. It's harmonizing with the magical signatures of everyone inside. Creating connections, magical threads linking the delegates to the building's core magic and to each other. Harry's expression darkened with realization. He's creating a consensus field. Not controlling minds directly, but subtly influencing agreement patterns. Making compromise and consensus more likely on specific topics. That's actually not as evil as I expected, Neville admitted. Depends on what consensus he's steering them toward, Harry countered. And it's still magical manipulation without consent. The Matrix is approaching activation threshold, Padma warned. Based on these readings, it will fully engage when all delegates are present for the main session, which starts in 30 minutes. Harry made a quick decision. We need to disrupt it without alerting Ashworth. Luna, you and I will access the building's foundation through the old service tunnels. Neville, Padma, maintain surveillance. If you spot Ashworth or his associates, alert us immediately. With practiced efficiency, they split into teams. Harry and Luna made their way to the ancient tunnels beneath Geneva's magical quarter, using shadowwalking to avoid detection by the numerous security measures. The tunnels were damp and dimly lit, remnants of a much older magical community that had existed before the modern city. As they descended deeper, Harry could feel the powerful magical confluence that had attracted magical settlement here centuries ago, raw magical energy flowing through natural channels in the earth. The building's main foundation should be directly above us now, Luna whispered, consulting a magical map they'd acquired. Harry extended his magical senses, feeling for the matrix Padma had detected. It was there, an elegant, almost beautiful construction of magical influence, woven so skillfully into the existing wards that most wizards would never notice it. Impressive work, he murmured. This took months to establish. Ashworth must have agents within the ICW maintenance staff. Can you disable it without triggering alarms? Luna asked. Harry studied the magical construction carefully. Not disable, but redirect. If we adjust the harmonic frequency here and here, he indicated specific points in the magical weave, we can change what type of consensus it encourages. To what? Suspicion, Harry said with a grim smile. Specifically, suspicion about magical influence and manipulation. Turn Ashworth's tool against him. They worked carefully, using the techniques Harry had learned in his years of exile to subtly shift the magical frequencies without disrupting the overall pattern. It was delicate work, requiring precise control and deep understanding of how magical influences interacted. Almost done, Harry said after 20 minutes of intense concentration. Just need to anchor the new frequency to prevent reversion. As he prepared the final adjustment, a slow clapping sound echoed through the tunnel. They spun to see Edmund Ashworth standing calmly in the shadows, watching them with an expression of genuine appreciation. Masterful work, Mr. Potter, he said conversationally. Few wizards would even detect my influence matrix, let alone understand how to redirect it. You've learned a great deal in your exile. Harry straightened, keeping his hands free for wandless defense if needed. Ashworth. I wondered if you'd show up personally or leave it to your associates. Some projects require a personal touch. Ashworth stepped forward, his wand held loosely but ready. Especially when they involve someone of your caliber. The French site was an obvious diversion, Luna said. Of course it was. I needed to assess how thoroughly you'd investigate versus how quickly you'd see through to my real purpose. Ashworth smiled thinly. You continue to impress. Your consensus field won't work, Harry stated flatly. We've already redirected it. So I observed. A brilliant countermove in our ongoing game. Ashworth seemed genuinely untroubled by this setback. But merely one move on a very large board. Harry studied his opponent carefully. Ashworth appeared too calm, too accepting of this significant disruption to his plans. Something wasn't right. This was a test, Harry realized suddenly. The entire Geneva operation was a test to see what we'd detect and how we'd respond. Ashworth inclined his head slightly. Very good, Mr. Potter. Yes, Geneva is important but ultimately expendable in my larger strategy. What I needed to know was whether your magical perception and intervention capabilities matched what I suspected. You've confirmed they do. Why? Luna asked sharply. What's the real plan? Evolution, Ms. Lovegood. Magical evolution. Ashworth's expression turned earnest, almost passionate. The magical world stagnates while muggles innovate. Their technology will soon make the statute of secrecy unsustainable. When that happens, we face a choice, subjugation or transcendence. And you chose subjugation, of them, Harry said. I chose protection, of us, Ashworth countered. But my methods have evolved since our last encounter, just as you have evolved, Mr. Potter. He gestured to the magical matrix above them. This crude influence field is nothing compared to what's coming. Harry tensed, ready for attack, but Ashworth simply stepped back into the shadows. We'll meet again soon. When the real work begins. His voice echoed slightly as he appeared to fade into the darkness itself. Watch for me at the crossroads, Harry Potter. Luna moved to pursue, but Harry caught her arm. Wait. It's another misdirection. He was right. When they illuminated the tunnel fully, they found only a sophisticated magical projection where Ashworth had stood, an advanced technique that allowed remote communication with near-perfect fidelity. At the crossroads, Luna repeated. He knows about the Crossroads project. Harry's blood ran cold. That's what this was really about. Confirming our capabilities while revealing he's aware of our new initiative. He turned to Luna, urgency in his voice. We need to get back to Britain. Immediately. They arrived at the Crossroads estate to find it seemingly undisturbed. Draco met them at the entrance, having returned from coordinating with the task force in France. Nothing unusual here, he reported as they conducted a thorough inspection. Wards intact, construction proceeding as planned. No sign of interference. Check everything, Harry insisted. Ashworth specifically mentioned the Crossroads. He's planning something connected to this place. They spent hours examining every aspect of the estate, the magical foundations, the renovation work, the security systems. Nothing appeared tampered with or compromised. Could he have been bluffing? Neville suggested. Trying to make us paranoid, disrupt our work. Possible, Harry conceded. But Ashworth doesn't make empty threats. As dawn approached, they gathered in the main hall to reassess. Harry felt frustrated, certain that Ashworth had some plan involving the Crossroads, but unable to identify what it might be. The ley line confluence is stable, Luna reported. No signs of tampering with the natural magical flows. Construction materials are clean, Draco added. No embedded enchantments or curses. Harry paced the hall, trying to think like Ashworth. What are we missing? If he wanted to sabotage the Crossroads, there are more direct ways than cryptic warnings. A thought suddenly struck him. Unless, he doesn't want to stop it. He wants to use it. Use it how? Padma asked. The Crossroads will bring together magical practitioners from diverse traditions, Harry explained, thinking aloud. People with unique magical knowledge, unusual abilities, rare techniques. Exactly the kind of magical diversity Ashworth would want to study for his essence transference work. You think he plans to target our guests? Luna looked horrified. Or simply observe them. Learn from them. Adapt their techniques for his own purposes. Harry's expression hardened. The Crossroads could be an unwitting research hub for his next evolution of magical manipulation. So we cancel the project? Draco asked. Let Ashworth win without a fight. No, Harry said firmly. We adapt. Increase security. Add monitoring for specific magical signatures. Create countermeasures for essence detection and transfer magic. And we prepare for Ashworth to make his move, Luna added. Harry nodded. The Crossroads continues as planned. But now it has a dual purpose, bringing together diverse magical traditions and drawing Ashworth into the open. A trap, Neville summarized. With some of the world's most knowledgeable magical practitioners as both bait and potential defense. Exactly. Harry turned to his friends, determination replacing frustration. Ashworth thinks he's manipulating us, using the Crossroads for his purposes. We'll let him think that while preparing for him. They spent the following weeks implementing enhanced security measures while continuing preparations for the Crossroads inaugural gathering. Harry coordinated with Nazari and the IMSC to maintain surveillance for Ashworth's activities without revealing their awareness of his interest in the project. 2 months later, the Crossroads was ready. The renovated estate had been transformed into a remarkable center for magical exchange, lecture halls designed to accommodate various teaching styles, practice areas for different magical traditions, living quarters for visitors, and a central great hall where the confluence of ley lines created a naturally amplified environment for magical demonstration. Invitations had gone out worldwide, carefully selected to bring together practitioners who might never otherwise meet. The response had been overwhelming, with acceptances from magical communities as diverse as Tibetan mystical orders, Amazonian shamanic circles, African ritual collectives, and isolated European magical theorists. Harry stood in the great hall on the evening before the official opening, surveying what they had created. Despite the shadow of Ashworth's threat, he felt genuine pride in what the Crossroads represented, a new approach to magical learning, unbounded by traditional limitations. It's beautiful, Luna said, joining him. Everything we hoped it would be. And thoroughly protected, Harry added. Every defensive measure we could devise without compromising the open atmosphere we wanted to create. Luna slipped her hand into his. Are you ready for tomorrow? For the opening, yes. For Ashworth, as ready as we can be without knowing exactly what he's planning. He'll come, Luna said with certainty. A gathering of this magical diversity is too tempting for someone obsessed with magical essence and its applications. Harry nodded, squeezing her hand. And when he does, we end this. Finally. The opening day of the Crossroads arrived with perfect weather and an atmosphere of excitement. Magical practitioners from around the world converged on the estate, many meeting for the first time despite decades of parallel magical study. Harry moved among the guests, greeting attendees and making introductions. To the public and most participants, he was simply the founder of an innovative magical exchange program. Only a small core group knew about the secondary purpose, the trap set for Ashworth. The day progressed with opening presentations in the Great Hall, followed by smaller breakout sessions where practitioners demonstrated their unique magical approaches. Harry participated in several, sharing some of the techniques he had learned during his exile, while continuously monitoring for any sign of Ashworth or his associates. By evening, the first day was concluding with a celebratory gathering in the central courtyard. Magical displays illuminated the night sky as practitioners shared demonstrations of their traditions. No sign of him, Draco murmured as he joined Harry near the refreshment tables. Our detection wards have registered nothing suspicious. He'll come, Harry replied confidently. If not today, then soon. He won't be able to resist this concentration of magical knowledge. As if summoned by his words, Harry felt a subtle shift in the magical atmosphere, a familiar resonance that made his skin prickle. He scanned the crowd carefully, extending his magical senses. There, at the edge of the gathering. A tall figure conversing with a group of African magical theorists. Though his appearance was different, the magical signature was unmistakable once Harry focused on it. Northeast corner, he said quietly to Draco. Disguised as the Swedish runecaster. That's him. Draco glanced casually in that direction. Are you sure? The wards didn't detect anything. He's using an advanced version of the mask. But I recognize the underlying pattern now. I'll alert the others, Draco said, moving away casually. No sudden moves. Let's see what he's after. Harry continued circulating among the guests, keeping Ashworth in his peripheral vision. The disguised wizard moved through the gathering with apparent ease, engaging various practitioners in conversation, occasionally examining magical demonstrations with scholarly interest. To anyone else, he appeared to be simply another participant. But Harry noticed how strategically he positioned himself near the most unique magical practitioners, how carefully he observed their techniques, how he subtly steered conversations toward specifics of magical essence and core properties. Luna joined Harry, having been alerted by Draco. What's his game? She whispered. He must know we'd recognize him eventually. He's gathering information, Harry replied. Learning directly from practitioners with knowledge he can't access elsewhere. The question is whether that's his only purpose tonight. They maintained their observation as the evening progressed. Ashworth continued his rounds of the gathering, never doing anything overtly suspicious but clearly absorbing as much magical information as possible. As the demonstration portion of the evening concluded, Harry decided to force the issue. He approached the group where Ashworth was currently engaged, joining the conversation about variations in magical conductivity across different wand woods. I've found that wandless channeling often reveals properties that wooden conductors mask, Harry said, making direct eye contact with the disguised Ashworth. Don't you agree, Professor Lindholm? Or do you prefer Mr. Ashworth in this setting? A moment of perfect stillness descended on their immediate vicinity. The other practitioners looked confused, but Ashworth merely smiled slightly. Impressive detection, Mr. Potter, he said, his voice no longer carrying the Swedish accent of his disguise. I wondered how long it would take. You weren't exactly hiding, Harry replied evenly. Making quite thorough rounds, in fact. Gathering useful information. Immensely. Your collection of magical practitioners is remarkably diverse. Exactly what I hoped the crossroads would become. The other wizards in the group backed away, sensing the tension between the two men. Around the courtyard, Harry was aware of his allies moving into position: Draco, Luna, Neville, Padma, and others who knew Ashworth's significance. "You won't be implementing whatever you learn here," Harry said, keeping his voice conversational despite the confrontation. "Your experiments end tonight." Ashworth looked genuinely amused. "My dear Mr. Potter, you misunderstand. I have no intention of disrupting this wonderful gathering. Quite the contrary, I came to contribute." "Contribute what, exactly?" "Perspective." Ashworth gestured around at the assembled magical practitioners. "You've created something remarkable here. A true exchange of magical knowledge across traditions that have remained separate for centuries. It's revolutionary. And useful for your research into magical essence manipulation," Harry added coldly. "Of course. As it is useful for your own understanding of magic. Knowledge itself is neutral, Mr. Potter. It's application that defines morality. Your applications have killed people. Manipulated others. Attempted to control entire populations. Because I've been working in isolation, with limited perspectives," Ashworth replied, his tone earnest. "Places like the crossroads, open exchange of magical theory and practice, this is what the magical world needs to evolve beyond our current limitations." Harry studied the man carefully, trying to discern his true intentions. Ashworth seemed genuinely appreciative of what the crossroads represented, which made him even more dangerous. "Why are you really here?" Harry asked directly. "Not just to learn or appreciate. You have a specific purpose." Ashworth smiled slightly. "Direct as always." "Very well." He lowered his voice so only Harry could hear. "I came to offer you a choice, Harry Potter. Cooperation or confrontation. Explain." "Your vision for the crossroads and my work toward magical preservation share a fundamental goal, the advancement of magical understanding beyond traditional limitations. We differ in methods, certainly, but our aims have alignment." "Your aim is control," Harry countered. "Mine is freedom of knowledge." "Is it?" Ashworth raised an eyebrow. "You've spent 10 years learning magical traditions specifically to counter those who betrayed you. To become powerful enough that no one could imprison you again. To ensure your autonomy through magical superiority." The words hit uncomfortably close to truth, and Harry felt a flicker of unease. "I studied to understand," he replied. "To learn what magic truly is beyond what Hogwarts taught me. As did I, in my own way." Ashworth glanced around at the gathering. "The difference between us, Mr. Potter, is primarily one of scale. You seek personal autonomy through magical knowledge. I seek the same for all of magical kind. By controlling muggles. By manipulating magical consensus. By creating a world where wizards need not hide their nature. Where magical and non-magical can coexist with appropriate boundaries." Ashworth's expression turned serious. "The statute of secrecy is failing. You know this. Everyone with global magical awareness knows this. The question is not whether change comes, but how we shape it." Harry felt others watching them, aware that their conversation had drawn attention despite its quiet nature. Luna had moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. "What exactly are you proposing?" Harry asked, maintaining his calm exterior while remaining alert for any magical aggression. "An alliance," Ashworth replied simply. "Your crossroads becomes what you intend, a center for magical exchange and learning. But it also serves as a think tank for addressing the coming collision between magical and muggle worlds. My research continues, but with oversight and ethical constraints determined collaboratively. You expect me to trust you after what you did to me? After the people you've killed? I expect you to recognize the practical value of cooperation over conflict." Ashworth held Harry's gaze steadily. "You have me at a disadvantage here. Your allies surround us. You could attempt to capture or kill me right now. But what then? My network continues without me, my research progresses through others, and the fundamental problems facing magical society remain unsolved. Harry considered his options. Ashworth was right about one thing: he was currently at a tactical disadvantage, surrounded by Harry's allies in a place where Harry controlled the magical environment. Attempting to capture him now would likely succeed. But something felt wrong about the situation. Ashworth was too calm, too accepting of his vulnerable position. There had to be something more to his appearance here. You've set something in motion, Harry realized aloud. Something that happens whether we cooperate or not. Ashworth smiled slightly. I've lived long enough to appreciate contingency planning, Mr. Potter. But I genuinely prefer the cooperative approach. It's more efficient for everyone involved. Luna had reached them now, standing at Harry's side. What have you done, Ashworth? She asked directly. Created options, Ms. Lovegood. For all of us. He looked between them. The choice is yours, Mr. Potter. Cooperate, and we work together toward managed revelation of the magical world on our terms. Refuse, and my contingency activates, a cascading series of magical exposures worldwide that will force the issue chaotically. You're bluffing, Harry said, but without complete conviction. Am I? You've seen my planning capabilities. My network extends far beyond Britain now. Can you be certain I haven't positioned revelation triggers across the globe? The terrible thing was, Harry couldn't be certain. Ashworth had demonstrated remarkable foresight and organizational capacity. If he had indeed prepared a global contingency plan for magical revelation. You're asking me to betray everything I've worked for, Harry said quietly. To collaborate with the man who framed me, who sent me to Azkaban, who forced me into exile. I'm asking you to move beyond personal grievances to address existential threats to our kind, Ashworth countered. And yes, what I did to you was unforgivable on a personal level. But it was also necessary to remove the one wizard with enough public influence to interfere with work that needed to be done. And now you want that same wizard as an ally? Now I recognize that same wizard has become something more powerful than I anticipated. Someone whose vision could complement my own rather than oppose it. Harry felt the weight of the moment, the culmination of 10 years of exile, learning, and return. The man responsible for his downfall now stood before him, offering not apology but partnership. It was simultaneously infuriating and thought-provoking. I need time, Harry said finally. And verification that your claimed contingency exists. Ashworth nodded, unsurprised. Reasonable. I can provide evidence of 3 revelation triggers, enough to confirm the pattern without compromising the full system. And you'll remain here while we verify? Under appropriate monitoring, yes. Ashworth glanced at Luna. I assume Ms. Lovegood and Mr. Malfoy will ensure I don't simply disappear. Harry exchanged looks with Luna, a silent communication passing between them. She nodded slightly, understanding his intent. Very well, Harry said. Show us these triggers. If they verify, we'll discuss terms of potential cooperation. As arrangements were made to move their conversation to a more private setting, Harry maintained his outward composure. But internally, his mind raced with possibilities and calculations. Ashworth claimed to want cooperation, but Harry knew the man operated through layers of deception and manipulation. This offer would have hidden aspects, traps and advantages Harry might not immediately perceive. Yet there was uncomfortable truth in Ashworth's assessment of the magical world situation. The statute of secrecy was increasingly difficult to maintain in an age of ubiquitous surveillance and communication technology. Magical society would need to adapt or face exposure on terms not of their choosing. The question was whether Ashworth's approach, with its history of coercion and control, could ever be trusted as a solution. Or whether Harry could find a third path, one that neither embraced Ashworth's methods nor ignored the legitimate challenges he identified. As they entered a secure meeting room within the Crossroads main building, Harry caught Luna's eye once more. In her steady gaze he found the reminder he needed, of who he was beneath the power he'd acquired, of the principles that had guided him through exile and return. Whatever happened next, whatever choice he made regarding Ashworth's offer, would define not just his own path forward but potentially the future relationship between magical and non-magical worlds. The boy who lived. The dark wizard they feared. The man who returned. Now he would become something else entirely, either the wizard who found a new way forward for magical kind, or the one who stopped the greatest threat to magical autonomy since Voldemort himself. Either way, the path that had begun with betrayal 10 years ago was reaching its culmination. And Harry Potter, no longer defined by others' perceptions but by his own hard-won wisdom and power, was ready to make his choice. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.